Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is John Hamilton, also known as Infinite.Grit on Instagram. John is a strength and conditioning coach, a former Green Beret, a former Night Stalker, an ambassador for the Special Forces Foundation, who helps tactical athletes train for special operations. Another fitness and special forces prep episode, so I hope you guys aren't getting too bored with that subject. Today's episode is brought to you by the Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group helps you restore balance, unlock vitality through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Now, what does all that mean? HRT, TRT, hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, peptides. If these are something that you have been thinking of for a while or just looking into now, look no further than Precision Wellness Group. They have the experience, the knowledge, and the know-how to get you where you want to be in life. And Dr. Taylor Bosley is a former Green Beret who knows where you've been, where you want to go, and how to get you there. And he's an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine. So if you have questions, reach out to Precision Wellness Group. I'll have links to their socials and their website in the show description, along with Infinite Grit / John Hamilton. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. John Hamilton, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Hey man, it's an honor. I've been seeing what you're doing online. Look, it sounds like you put out a really good message, kind of like what we were talking about before we got on the podcast. It's very positive, which I think is something that needs to be more prevalent inside of the internet. So thank you for spreading a positive message, man.
I appreciate that. It blows me away every time that somebody says that they see my stuff. Or, somebody messaged me, one of my guys I went through the course with, he messaged me, he said some of his civilian friends have now shown him content that they didn't know it was, he didn't tell them. They just showed him some of my reels and they're like, oh, did you see this? You were this in the military. And he goes, oh, my buddy made that. That was crazy to me that now people are starting to see it. So that part is like blowing me away that people are enjoying this product I'm making, and social media is weird. You get this polished, finished product put out there. But in reality, it's just me in my basement fucking yelling at my computer. And then when I do figure out something, like I just said before I come on, I'm like, fuck, that's awesome. Wait, how did I do that? Shit. And then I got to go back and I'm asking ChatGPT stuff. No, so it's good. But the algorithm wants us to fight or whatever and wants discourse. And I noticed that with some of my reels recently, which has been a bummer. And it'll promote stuff that like people are complaining in the comments, people fighting in the comments, and that's a bummer. But there's no reason, you can't give constructive criticism in the comments. Like it never comes off in your head how you write it, and the other people see it like at all. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, and it's like I tend to stay away from the comments unless it's someone asking like a question I can provide some value, or it's like, hey, I appreciate it, because a lot of times it's that public setting where when there's a conversation taking place in public, it just seems like people have a chip on their shoulder immediately. So there's always kind of that I gotcha type of thing that people are trying to get in. So, but with platforms that like yours and like mine, I try to do it as well, is those negative comments or kind of the bickering back and forth seems to be a pretty small percentage of the conversations that take place, which is good.
Yeah. There's a special forces Facebook page, and your content pops up in there from time to time, and people are just roasting you in the comments. And I'm like, did you even watch the real? I don't say this because I stay out of it. It's like it doesn't even seem like you watched what was in it. You're just here to bitch about the previous generation,
Yeah.
about being successful in their endeavors now, or things like that. So that part blows me away. And I'd look in there, I was like, no wonder everybody in here is old, because the new generation just don't want to listen to the bullshit.
Yeah.
So I see it from both sides, the quiet professional now into the modern generation where that shit's fucking over now. So whatever. Everybody's got their fucking thing. So fuck yeah. Speaking of content, man, yeah, I saw your stuff quite a while ago, and I was like, man, these years you're putting out good videos and good content and using your background. Is this something that you kind of just stumbled into, or was it just you? Because when I got hurt, um, a lot of our peers get pushed towards the tactical route, or staying in the life of being a shooter, or at least proficient in shooting and living that life. Or that's pretty much non-existent for me. I don't measure up. I never got to go to any of the schools, but okay, the head stuff really didn't take away my strength and my ability. So, all right, let's go towards health and fitness. Is that the way your career pushed you, or did you just kind of make the choice?
Yes, I'm much like yourself. I was always really into fitness. I grew up playing sports, things like that. And I got into fitness kind of later in my career. Like I was always training, I was always doing this stuff, but I had a lot of injuries during my career, primarily with my back and things like that. And I got to the point where I was almost blaming the army and blaming rucking and jumping out of planes and stuff like that. And looking back, I realize now that I was putting my focus on the wrong things. So once I started really diving into it, refining the way I train, I was like, I'm going to start sharing this stuff. So got out of the army, and there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to get out, but one of the reasons why I didn't want to go to the shooter route is because I spent my entire childhood moving. I spent my entire adult life, in the army, going from place to place. I wanted to be part of Afghanistan. That was ending, and I wanted to get out and just kind of establish some roots somewhere because I had never had that. So decided to move down to Arizona with my wife, who I met while I was getting out of the military, and started posting just fitness content. And then got a lot of questions about my background, got a lot of questions how to train for this, how to train for this. And it kind of morphed into what it is now. But it started with just kind of general fitness content. Here's how I, improved my run times. Here's how I got better at rucking. Here's how I solved my back problems that I had that I thought was due to chronic, or jumping out of planes and carrying a ruck, but it was actually due to imbalances created by my poor workout that I was doing. So yeah, started sharing that stuff online, and it kind of just started catching fire. So we kept building and kind of doubled down on it, and now we're at where we are.
Yeah, and how long was it before you started bringing on other people, where you had too much workload?
So we didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of just all over the place until last April. And then we kind of dialed in. We're like, okay, this is how we run things. This is our kind of SOPs. So like when someone comes in, the programs look different, but the structure we run them through and the touch points and the accountability and all that stuff, like that's the stuff we figured out. Ran that on my own till July, so a couple months, and it grew pretty quickly. And then in July, brought in another Green Beret, CJ, who got out of the military, or he's still med boarding, but he went down to Texas A&M and started coaching there, doing some strength and conditioning stuff. And then in August, we brought on Matt Powell as kind of our head strength coach, and he's been the head strength coach for 375 down in Georgia for the last 13 years. So it was kind of that, like, okay, I've been training for 15 years. I've been really diving into the literature and like how to train and all the physiology behind it for the last 4 or 5 years. But I want Matt, who's sent 200 guys a selection and really knows all of this stuff and has been doing it for 2 decades. So with him kind of handling the program side and being the head strength coach inside the platform, and then myself and looking to get other Green Berets on board in the future, we'll handle the mentorship side and the accountability and make sure guys are squared away before they go to the pipelines.
So you got all the bases covered, not just like your entry level programs, but you're going all the way to OTC and beyond, right?
Yeah, yeah. So Matt's been there for 13 years. He's been in the Ranger Regiment, so a lot of guys that he's trained up for OTC, he's trained up for Delta and SFAS and all those types of courses. So he has a really, really good methodology that we've kind of blended and adapted to what we're seeing over the last year. And then with that, we do all the nutrition. He's a registered dietitian, and we do, the accountability. We make sure guys are squared away with their rope climbs and their packing lists and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. We have a couple different kind of levels to it, but for kind of like the full coaching, we really pour in all we can to make sure guys are successful or have the best chance of going out there and crushing it.
When did you when did you go to selection?
I went in January 2016.
Oh, okay. I say so 4 years, 4 years after me. Yeah. Um, it's interesting because I had a guy on 2 days there. I talked to the guy the other day who was in on the 2 Weeks in Hell when they recorded.
Really nice.
Yeah, I was told him I was like, I got so many clickbait titles for your episode when I finally do post it. He was in Bo Bergdahl's unit also. I was like, oh, I'm going to clickbait the shit out of this episode. Um, but yeah, he's like, yeah, I was there when they were recording it in 2009, and that was really it. There was the book before How to Get Selected that was written in the 2000s, I think, but then 2 Weeks in Hell came out, and that was the study guide for years and years. When did the guys? I mean, you came a few years later, but then guys started popping up with training programs and workout programs. Is that towards the late teens or something like that?
Yeah, I remember um, there was a guy with SEAL Fit that popped up. There was Stu Smith. So a lot of Navy SEALs started doing it. Not a lot of Green Berets or many guys on the Army side. Like Stu Smith wrote some books and stuff like that for the Army side, which I consumed all of them. But there wasn't a whole lot specifically for SFAS. It was kind of just for the Army or different like Ranger School stuff like that. So aside, when I went, I used the book Get Selected, and that was kind of like my Bible going into it. So there wasn't a whole lot, but nowadays there's quite a bit. So really,
So
guys have
much.
no reason not to know what to expect going in now.
Yeah, and for better or for worse, SFAS started their Instagram page. Finally, now they started it, and now they're getting shit on for starting it too late. Like,
I
what,
saw
like
that.
okay, who cares? Who fucking cares? You got Nick Lavery on your side. You'll be fine. Like he's out there every couple weeks promoting you guys. You'll be just fine. So, um, yeah, I I'm like torn because I think I was right at that line or somewhere in that line where the next generation of guys started or ended and started because the generations get smaller as technology advances and we get different guys. So mine was just like, fucking, hey, private, figure it out. Even the recruiter, I was like, is there any program? Oh, no. And he wasn't an SF guy. He was a CA or a PSYOPs guy making the rotations from Leavenworth to Fort Sill to somewhere else and he didn't have anything. And just ruck and go run in your free time, and that, you know, I guess the mental factor was there for me, and that got me through. But physically, was I ready? I don't know, but I still went and did it,
Right.
and I didn't look like this. Like I was a skinny fucking kid, and you just go and beat the shit out of yourself, and you're in horrible pain the whole time. So it's just interesting. So we had 2 weeks in hell, and then it kind of switched over to there's a hole in the market. People started to fill it, and now people are quite attracted to it. But it also coincides with the pool of soldiers to pull from keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And I talked with Dave Walton about that. Like the numbers of people that are able to go keeps getting smaller. Do you feel like you guys and you and your peers are like part of SOCOM's, I wouldn't want to say psyop, but almost a psychological operation to manipulate the candidate pool before they even get to selection or before they even sign up for it? You guys are part of that effort to at least get more people into regiment.
100%. Yeah, I think we're definitely kind of top of funnel for the different pipelines. And it kind of goes back to what you were talking about with the SFAS starting their page late and things like that. Like all of the younger generation, the generation that is going to serve and be the future generations of Green Berets, of Rangers, of whatever, they are on social media. So that is kind of like the first look that they get into what that environment even looks like, or that it even exists. A lot of them don't even know what Green Berets do or what Rangers do, what the difference is, what the pipelines look like, how to train for it. So absolutely, I think indirectly we do influence younger guys to at least look into the pipeline and start preparing for it. So I never tell guys like, hey, you need to go Green Beret. I just put a reel out the other day, but if anyone has an interest in it, I will provide information on my experience and the things that's all open source that that will give them information and help them make a intelligent, informed decision. Because I do think it is a great pipeline, and many individuals like yourself and myself have benefited greatly from it and learned a lot about ourselves and developed skill sets and things like that. So, in that sense, yes, I absolutely think that we are indirectly increasing the pool of individuals that would be interested in those pipelines in the first place.
I was, I'm working on this. Like, I'm going to try and record it today, but I've been working on it. It's like, we hammer on people that comparison is the thief of joy, right? But if I didn't compare myself to other Green Berets, I don't know if I would have been driven to get any better. If I didn't if people didn't look at Nick Lavery having one leg, right, and be like, well, he's got one leg, I can fucking do it. If they didn't compare themselves to him and his attitude, they wouldn't be driven to go get their workouts done and things like that. So I think there is some, you know, the more we can put good content, positive, with truthful information out there so people get it all over the places, because the SEALs had the best publicists for years. Everybody knows what the fucking Navy SEAL is. Even when I go do fundraisers and shit, there's more people that know what SEALs are than Green Berets, and it's a fundraiser for the foundation. Like, what the fuck? In the whole crowd, yeah, everybody knows what a Navy SEAL is. So we got to get the information out there and say, hey, it's okay to compare yourself to something that for good. And we need to, get away from, hey, comparison's bad. Well, that's not always the case. Like, you got to strive for something. If compare yourself to somebody, if you want to be like them, compare yourself to somebody that's like them or that is accomplishing those things. And some things around that. I'm trying to work that into a digestible little clip or something like that to just be like, hey, it's okay. Because I compare myself to people all fucking day long. And like you said, it's social media. It's a constant, it's a stream of, hey, this person's doing this cool thing or doing that thing. And like, we have to be able to process that mentally, not let it drive us insane, and then get us to where we need to go. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what I
It
always
takes
tell my guys is like, if you, and pretty much everyone that's going into this route is, if you're a highly competitive individual, just like we all are, you should use that to your advantage. And that doesn't mean you put guys down or, whatever. That means you take the mindset of you're going to look at what they're doing and, you know, objectively look at the things you're doing and the deficiencies you have and correct them so that you can compete. I think where kind of the comparison is a thief of joy comes in is like, if you look at somebody who's so far ahead of you and you identify this massive gap of like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get there, and it hurts your mindset, or someone succumbs to not taking that first step or taking action because they feel a certain way about their potential of doing it, then it can be detrimental. But for most guys that are competitive, looking at where someone else is at and comparing yourself and seeing what you can fix and iterate with and get to that point, I think is healthy, and it's something that is beneficial to be successful in any endeavor.
fuck yeah. I started the Instagram. Everybody starts at fucking zero, right? And I'm like, I want 1 million followers. I want a fucking million followers. And then I got to 1,000. And I was like, oh, I only got to do that 999 more times. But that was only a few weeks ago. And like, I'm going to hit 2,000 here in a few days. And I'm like, well, I got to do it 998 times. But I break it down into 50 follower blocks. And every time I get 50, I'm like, fuck yeah, that's fucking great. Because a million's an unrealistic number from zero. or even from fucking 50,000, right? A million's so far away, but if you break it down into 50 blocks and you're happy every time you get there, which I am, like, fuck, I love my followers. Like, I want to put out content that they like. And we, I think the instant gratification part is so important now because our attention span's so short. Like, you have to, okay, I want to bench 400 pounds. Well, where are you at? Oh, I'm at 250. All right, fucking, we're going to fucking celebrate every time we can put 5 pounds on that. And if you can be happy every 5 pound increment, then you're 400 is probably not going to make you happy. But okay, when you get there, you can be like, I can do five, let's get five more and five more. And then you can go beyond that. And by the time you get there, you're like, that's okay. That's an old goal. I just want to keep going those little, um, celebrate the little victories, like Sear. You got to get
Yeah.
the little victories in and shit like that. So, how do you get people into that mindset of that the fucking goal is so far away you can't even worry about it? Right? You got to fucking let that fuck off. You have to focus on the task at hand and accomplishing that. You got to be aware of the end goal, but you got to focus on this. Otherwise, there is no end goal. How do you get people in that mindset?
Yeah. Before, I used to be big into goal setting. I'm going to set this goal, I'm going to break it down to milestones, and I'm going to, track everything, hit those milestones. I still think there's some value in that. But now I'm in the camp of I focus solely on systems. And if I can identify the few tasks that's going to enable me to make progress on a consistent basis, and I build systems around being able to do that consistently, then I know I'm trending in the right direction and the result is going to take care of itself. So that's a lot of times what I tell guys to focus on now. A lot of guys, even with starting a business, starting a page, and I've fallen into this myself. It's easy to look ahead and be like, oh my gosh, I have so much work to do until I get to that point. And compare ourselves with others that are already there, but you haven't seen all of the work or the years or the effort or the frustration that they put in to get to that point. So if we just establish systems and do exactly what you're doing, posting on a consistent basis, hopping on, talking to individuals, getting the workouts in, prioritizing our meals, sleeping, reducing stress, living our lives, being happy and thankful for what we have around us, then that consistently that done consistently over a period of time, you will get to where you want to go, or you'll have a damn good shot.
Yeah. Do you think most people already know that, but they just like can't get it in their head, so they got to just hear it over? Because a lot a lot of people's message that are trying to help out and get people successful and where they need to be, they're saying, if you break it down to the simple level, they're saying the same thing. And just people, it might take somebody hearing it 1,000 times to get it. But the basics are they're there for a reason. Bench, squat, and deadlift. If you just do those three things, you're gonna be a fucking strong motherfucker. And people like want to get all crazy and do all this other stuff, but you know, they already know that the basics are there, but I don't know, why do we deviate away from that and get pulled off in other directions?
I think it's two different things. I think number one is the instant gratification and guys wanting to search for faster ways to do things, or guys convincing themselves that something should be you should be able to be at a certain point, or you should be able to reach a specific goal a lot faster than is actually realistic. And because they have this unrealistic expectation of how long it's going to take in the first place, they start bouncing between different things, looking for the perfect solution when in reality, they just underestimated the amount of work that it's going to take and the time that they have to be consistent with that amount of work. And number two, people I think it comes down to just guys, girls, whatever, people just not doing the things that are necessary to move towards a goal. It's easy to sit down and write our goals and research something and, watch all the YouTube videos on it and spend months identifying every little aspect about it. But that doesn't actually get us closer to the goal. The only thing that gets you closer to the goal is just doing the actual work. And I think a lot of times guys can stack so much stuff, so much bullshit in front of the few things that actually move the ball forward that it, takes so long or they never get started in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, never getting started, right? Just posts, you probably post. So I was like, I gotta get better at talking to my phone. Oh, fuck, how are we gonna do that? All right. And then now every day at 9, between 9 and 10 or 11, wherever I finish up for the night, I do a story about what did I get done today? What did I get done? 1 minute story. And already like a week, I'm like, oh, I like doing this. This is kind of fun. I'm in my basement. There's nobody here, but hey, these are the things I accomplished today. And these are the things I'm proud of, and it's cool. So I don't know if anybody's listening to them. Some people like them. If they don't, they flip past them. That's fine. But I'm getting better at practice. And it's just like the gym, this or business or anything. This is the easy part, sitting down and talking to people for me, because I like to talk and I like to get better at it. That's the skill I want to be better than everybody else at, is talking about whatever at any time. I want to be so good I can give a keynote speech at the drop of a hat. If I'm like at a dinner or something, it's, hey, this person didn't show up. Can you come up there and talk? Absolutely. What are we talking about? The movie Forrest Gump. All right. Well, this is gonna be a tough one. We're gonna get it done. That's how good at speaking I want to be. But the working out's easy. The talking is easy. It's all the other shit that you got to do and convince yourself to keep up the pattern. Like, oh, every day you got to put out content every day, or nobody can hear you. You got to go eat 200 grams of protein every day. You got to drink your water. You got to get your sleep. You got to make sure you got this. And I got to cook my food and all this other stuff. What do you think holds people up the most when they realize that the most fun part of it is the easy part? They think that's the hard part. Like, people think the gym is the hard part about being fit, when that's the only place you're going to have fun,
Yeah.
actually.
That's the stuff we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do
I
you
think
think people get hold? Yeah.
I think it's just that, like, that gap between expectation versus reality. Like, you expect that um these gains and everything's going to come so fast, or you expect that it's going to be easy because so and so did it and they're whatever. Like, you compare yourself to them and they're like, oh, I can do it, so it must be easy. And I think, it's not like, I just think people are, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but people are inherently lazy. Like, we all are inherently lazy. And if we succumb to that little voice in our head that reasons with us and tries to get us to sit down and watch another episode of Netflix instead of prepping meals for the next day, whatever, like, it's very easy to do that. We've all done it. And if you don't train yourself to overcome that little voice or that pull towards comfort on a consistent basis, then you get stuck in this rut of always seeking comfort instead of doing the things that are uncomfortable on a consistent basis, but actually get you to where you want to be.
And it's weird, like you say, jump on Netflix and watching another show, right? But like, with this, weird things, like weird things have been hard. Like, I'll see Denny post a fucking hilarious reel. I was like, I know that motherfucker has no time in his schedule. None. Where the fuck did he find that clip? I'm like, where? And then I got YouTube playing over here on a separate screen, like all the time, just running through clips. And he'll post something like, how? How the fuck did he find time in his schedule to find this clip? And I'm trying to find something too. And it's just like, it's crazy. You got to dig through this stuff, and you're so busy, and then somebody will find time. And so that's like another comparison thing. But we'll be done with it. But I'm like, I see somebody do that and go, if they can do it, fuck, Nick, you can do it too. You got to you work hard. They're farther ahead of you, and just recognize that, hey, they've been doing this a while longer, and they're doing this, and he's probably got some AI program watching YouTube for him to find clips. But with that one comparison, what do you think about these like fitness influencers when they post this? If you're a man at 35, you need to have all these benchmarks, like bench 1.5 times your body weight, squat twice. Though that content, I hate that the most out of everything on the internet, even the mean stuff. I'm like, this is the worst type of content for the fitness industry that there is. What do you think about that stuff?
100% agree. I think It's even with like training for performance. It's highly dependent on the individual's goals, and you can never just slap a freaking standard onto anybody and say if you're not this, you're not a man, or you're not, a top performer, whatever. You're not able to perform or protect or any of that stuff. Everyone starts with a different time horizon. Everyone goes through different injuries. Maybe they hurt their back. Maybe they freaking had concussions, stuff like that, that set them back multiple years. And now they're just happy to squat 135 and feel good about it. Like, so I think to say things like that puts this unrealistic expectation, and it has that like negative impact on individuals. Like someone's going to see that and they're going to feel like shit because they're not anywhere near those numbers, and they're going to one not get up and do things, or think that they're such a lost cause, or they'll never be able to reach those numbers, that they feel worthless. um, or in a small minority, it might motivate individuals to get after it. So but by and large, I think it's a negative thing, and it's kind of that outcome focused content that's just looking at getting clicks. That's really all it is. And I'm
Yeah.
never
Yeah, they're just trying to get us mad and click on, it, and I just scrolled past. It's like, God damn it, this fucking shit pissed me off.
there's so much of that on social media too. It's like you
Yeah,
see so much stuff just for clicks. Just wild conspiracies and political, stuff on there. You'll see guys hating on a certain way of training and whatever. Like, to me, obviously I have my thoughts on how someone should train for selection and what's optimal for that. It looks different for every individual, but the principles will still apply. But as long as someone's training and moving their body and living a healthy life, or at least moving towards being a more healthy and better version of themselves, then I support it all day long. I'm never going to say you're doing something wrong because you can't hit these numbers at 35. Like, as long as you're continuing to put in the effort and ideally refining and iterating along the way, fantastic. Good on you.
yeah, yeah. The at least getting to the gym. That, but I go to the YMCA over here, and God, everybody there like, hey guys, you're already here. Just go watch YouTube. Like, please go get on YouTube and like research what you're doing, because I don't want to. Yeah, I don't jump in unless somebody's going to hurt themselves.
Right.
Like, you're gonna seriously end up hurt. But I even pulled back when I want to help somebody, because I'm like, well, what if I tell somebody something and then they drop the weight, and then they go, oh, he told me what to do, and then now I get in trouble or something like that. So I really try not to help anybody unless they come up to me, and things like that. But who who's your largest demographic reaching out to you and asking for, and then what help are they asking for?
Men from the ages of 22 to 35. I know it's a broad age range, but we do get guys, and it depends. On Instagram, it's a little bit younger. Instagram, we're around 22 to 27 is like our average age range. And then YouTube has a little bit older demographic. But the biggest things that they need help with is improving their run times, improving their ability to ruck, and solving issues with their injuries. So usually guys have a decent strength background. You'll see guys every once in a while that never lifted a weight in their life, and they need to really like learn the basics for that. But most of the time they have a decent strength building background, even if it was like a bodybuilding split, and they just need to dial that in, focus on solving their imbalances, and then really get their run and ruck times down.
Almost exclusively military, or some civilian as well?
We're about 85% military. So we do get a lot of civilian guys on the front side of an 18X pipeline, or just interested in attending an SFRE or going to the National Guard route. But most of our guys are going to the military or already in.
What, have they fixed the PT program in the military yet to where it's useful at all, or is it still garbage?
It depends on where you're at. We, talking to some individuals that are working out with their units and stuff like that, there's still quite a few units that have just a random E5 who never learned anything about strength and conditioning, never doesn't know anything about it, who creates workouts for them on a daily basis that doesn't move towards any particular goal. It's just kind of gut check, smoke session style workouts. So in that aspect, that still sucks. Still like how you and I were when we were, before SF. Um, but they are, I know like there's the H2F program that they implemented for regular Army. There's a Thor 3 for the special operations guys. So they're implementing things in there, but they need to be better about integrating that into actual unit PT and developing structured progressions for guys, not just smoking them on a daily basis and saying, that's it. So I think there needs to be a bigger emphasis on the education aspect, um, both for the individuals running PT and the individuals conducting PT. But it has been getting better, although they did recently remove the athletic trainers from the H2F program, but they still have strength and conditioning coaches and stuff like that. So they're still tweaking things here and there, but it has gotten better over the last 3 or 4 years for sure.
Yeah. Uh, I just remember as a private out in 2011 doing physical readiness training,
Oh,
and just you get to base. I was like, what the fuck is this? This is. It was that. It was like that. You know how the Marines, where as bad as they tell you it's going to be bad. They're going to be yelling at you and shit, and and then it's worse when you get there, for, from TV, because everybody I said to is, yeah, he's like, yeah, that shit's real. Well, I got to basic training, and it was so disappointing, below even kind of what I thought it was going to be. I was like, did I make a decision that this isn't even a real organization? I was so disappointed with what I got. I know there were some other factors that factored into that in basic training, but because the drill sergeants weren't really allowed to fuck with us because there were some investigations and shit going on. But just like, this is how they teach us to be fit. Now, running's running. Everybody fucking sucks at running, because as long as there's one dude cadre faster than everybody else, you're going to get smoked. But why did it get so bad?
I think just largely a lack of, I think it's a lack of education, like both on the DoD, the Army's part, and even down at the unit levels. Like I remember, I'm sure, I hope the program has gotten better now, but I remember when I was in the 160th, the guys would get sent to Master Fitness Trainer, like the MFT course, and they would come back and it was just a like another version of the PFT, or the bend and reach and all that type of stuff. And I remember we had a master fitness trainer, and she was like loved her as an individual. She's a great person, but she came back and ran us through a master fitness trainer program, and I was like, this is dog shit. Like it's terrible. And I think it's just, there's so much risk mitigation and there's so little actual progression, any type of progressive overload, any type of like judging and identifying where the force is at, building them up from there. And it's just like a weekly basis. I just need to figure out a workout so I can put my troops through PT and mark and check off the block instead of actually getting something out of it. That's what I see most often, is just like a check the block. We got to do PT, with formation, and we just want to go on about our day, and we don't really want to use this for any type of long-term benefit. We just need to tell the command that we did PT today so they get off our back.
Yeah. And then there's remedial PT, which also blew me away when you're at your unit. Like, there's people that couldn't get a 60 on the PT test, so they had to do PT in the afternoon. And fuck, in Oklahoma, it's in the afternoon in summer, it's fucking hot. Um, so I was like, really? What the fuck did I get? What is going on here? So that's why I can see, as the pool shrinks, like, not a lot of guys from the regular Army are probably passing. Um, or if they are, why they're passing is because they're taking the initiative, just like we always have, to figure it out on their own. And if somebody's got a plan, you said we're inherently lazy. If somebody's got a plan that I can just follow and stick to, and that'll most likely get me physically ready for selection, because the PT in the regular army, unless you're in an infantry unit or you're running around all the time, is probably not going
Right.
to be enough.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think too, one that I don't know why units don't just adopt a PT program, use an H2F strength and conditioning coach to write a 16-week progression, and they go through that. But I also think like with the standard changes with the now AFT and them increasing the minimum run time to like 22 minutes or 21 minutes on the 2 mile, it now like I'm seeing so many guys who are in the army who they come in our program and nothing against them, but they do a 2 mile timed run on our assessment week. We run everyone through kind of this assessment to see where they're at, and I have seen more like 17, 18-minute 2 miles than ever before. And when I was, even with the APFT, obviously it wasn't a perfect PT test, but the 17 to 21-year-old age bracket for the APFT back in the day, the slowest you could get is a 15:54 on the PT test or the 2 mile run. If you come in with a 15:54, that changes the game. You can get down to a sub 13:30 in just a couple months of dialed in training and nutrition versus running at 20 minutes on a 2 mile. So I think like the reduction in the fitness standards, especially for that 2 mile run, has really hurt the force's kind of ability to go out there and perform.
yeah. And God, that's a long time. I remember we had a guy run one of those once, like a 22, and we sent people out looking for him because we thought
Yeah.
he got lost. And that nope, the people looking for him caught up to him, like because he just couldn't run. And um, God, he ended up getting kicked out. Yeah, he was a terrible soldier. Terrible. Shouldn't have been in the military. Don't know how he got in. But yeah, just I don't know how he. God, I don't know how he lived. Like you meet people like that in the military. Like,
Yeah.
how are you alive? Um, and that's unfortunate. And I think I'm not hating on anybody here,
Right.
but
Right.
that, in my professional opinion, that guy shouldn't have been in the military. He should have never made it to a unit. He had no business being there. Yes, I get it. He was serving his country and all that. It's like, sure, fine. That dude didn't belong in the military. And I think that that's not a it's not a random thing. That was happening in every unit all over the army for 20 years. Or what do you think of that?
Yeah. I mean, there's and not like so my first unit was the 160th, and then I went from there to selection and ended up in group. And it wasn't as prevalent in the 160th because there's some sort of filtration process through Green Platoon. But even there, like you'll have guys that they get through it so they can demonstrate that they're capable of performing at that level, and then they get in the unit and then they get weekends, nights off, kind of get their life back a little bit, and it just goes to shit. And I think that is very prevalent in the military, where you'll have guys that I kind of this is like one of the controversial things I say, but I always say like the military doesn't teach you discipline. Like it doesn't make you a more disciplined person if you don't want to be. It shows you that you're capable of being disciplined in a particular environment. But when you're in initial entry training or when you're in a unit that has a little bit more control over you, maybe your leadership comes down on you, like that's imposing discipline on somebody. And of course, they're going to react a certain way. But oftentimes, what you see with, even some veterans and some guys that get into a unit where that lack of structure, or I'm sorry, the structure kind of fades away and they can make their own decisions and have a little bit more freedom over their time, they demonstrate a massive lack of discipline. So I think the military can be a fantastic tool if someone takes the mindset of like, hey, I want to learn how to do this and I'm going to be dedicated to maintaining it past that structured environment. But a lot of times what you'll see is guys demonstrate it for a short period of time when they know they absolutely have to get through a training or basic or whatever. And then when they get to the place, they get complacent and then all of that discipline goes out the window and you end up with individuals like that who their run times go bad, they gain a bunch of weight and they're just not not somebody that should be in the military. So I think that's unfortunately always going to be the case with a small percentage of individuals, at least in the regular army. Um, but I think I think what it comes down to, especially on the fitness side, is the education aspect and teaching somebody, not just like forcing them to work out for a period of time, but like, hey, this is why we do this. This is why we make sure we're eating this number of calories. This is how your body burns calories. Just like basic information that they can take and then apply ideally to their life after that point. And if they don't, like at least we gave them the information and all the tools to be successful, and they're the ones that decided not to.
Yeah. There, as some people, there are some people that they're just not going to listen
Yeah.
either.
Yeah,
They're
for
just going
sure.
to do their own thing. And, some of the people in charge of some of these people, it takes paperwork to get rid of somebody to do that. And do I want to do that? Do I really want to counsel this person and do that? Well, you should, but you got other shit going on and things like that. So whatever. But also, somebody was telling me something about how things are at group or at their unit or something. And I go, they were messaging. I'm reading. I go, hey, honestly, man, I don't give a shit. Actually, I got enough shit to worry about in the veteran community. Like, man, that sounds like it sucks. Dealing with some of these issues that they're having today with things, and I get to a point. I go, that's too much bandwidth. Actually, I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to go. Let me pull myself back to the veteran community, and because I have no influence on that, you have influence on people coming into the military and succeeding and things like that. So, do you feel that what's going on in the military more affects you? Because I'm trying to pull my focus on the guys that are out right now. As I see my focus shift that way, that's not my area of expertise. That's you and the guys that are coming in and being successful. Successful. Do you think? What was my question? Did I ask? I think I asked.
Do I have an influence on that?
What do you feel? How do you feel about that? That you have that influence on active duty personnel and fitness?
I like that I have that influence because I wasn't always perfect in my career. And I think what one of the big things that I harp on guys in situations like that is focus on what you can control. Ultimately, we've had a couple platoon leaders and stuff like that come through, but I'm not going to change anybody's um, environment or work environment. Like I'm not going to be able to influence that. The only thing I can influence is the individual's mindset and attitude towards that situation. And that's also the only thing that they can control. And I harp on this with guys a lot because there were times in my career when I was a private and I had a platoon sergeant who freaking drove me crazy and did all this stuff and would smoke me for no whatever, like all this stuff, like it really got to me. And I remember times where I started going down that negative thought process or that negative attitude, and it affected everything around me. So that's always what I tell guys inside the army is like, no matter where you're at in the army, the circumstances are very temporary. Their command is going to change out. Your platoon sergeant's going to leave. You can volunteer for other courses. Like it's never going to be permanent. But if you let the negativity from a toxic leader or negativity from the way a unit is being ran or the bureaucracy in the system, it can affect your like what you get out of that environment, and it can also get you in trouble. It can also lead to bad decisions on the weekend. It can lead to a plethora of life issues or stressors that you just don't need. So focus on the things that you can control. And a lot of times when I talk to individuals who are in those positions, I'm actually talking to my 20-year-old self that was in that same position, wishing I could go back and say the same thing. So I do like that I have that influence on guys so I can kind of get ahead of some of the mistakes that I made in their shoes, and hopefully they can progress and go perform beyond the point that I got. So I do like it.
How do you your influence is only going to grow, right? As your business grows and as more guys are like start taking it seriously. Because the new generation doesn't drink, and it seems like they're taking selection way more seriously than I did, and the course 1,000 times more serious than I did. I was serious, but in my own like way. I just showed up, did it, passed, and then went and got hammered, like a lot of people in my class did. But it seems like they're taking it a lot more seriously. And like, how do you think about that? Because you got to keep in check, like, the image that you want to portray, not now, but in 5, 10 years also. Because at one point, in a few years, the E7s or eights are either going to be influenced by you, Kevin Smith, Kevin Edgerton, the guys at One's Ready,
Yeah.
um, um, Stephen Manners, nutrition. He's getting his thing going, you know. But it seems like when you're on Instagram, there's a lot of these. But then you start counting it up, and there's like 25 people, you know. So we could have a majority of special operations influenced by 25 people, direct influence on their fitness and health and fitness. Do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Influencing future generations of, the regiment for sure. And it's not something I take lightly at all. And I try to give a very honest and realistic approach to it. Like, of course, guys are going to drink. Of course, guys are going to have fun. I encourage guys to enjoy where they're at. But along that way, prioritize the work, knock out the shit that you need to do, and then look around, enjoy your life a little bit. There's kind of a story I go back to with this, but when I got selected, I had a year between selection and going to the Q course. When you go to the 160th, it's much like the 75th or whatever, where you have a 3-year commitment. And I wanted to fulfill that because I really liked the unit. So I was going to fulfill that, made that deal with my first sergeant. And that year, I was chomping at the bit. I was eager to get to the Q course. I was eager to go earn my Green Beret, things like that. But I knew I had this time that I just had to sit on my hands and kind of wait. And honestly, it ended up being one of the most fun and best years of my life. Spent the summer fishing, hunting whitetail throughout the winter, hanging out, living with one of my best friends. Like, it was a fantastic time. So what I preach to guys kind of going through that process is like, we don't have to go perpetual monk mode and not enjoy our lives because we're taking this goal seriously. Like, on a weekly basis, kind of like what I talked about in the beginning, there's only a few things that we need to do on a consistent basis. Just a few. Go freaking work out, sleep, eat well, don't be an asshole, and continue to like be consistent with that. And you're going to move towards that ultimate goal. But after you complete that stuff, like, enjoy where you're at, have some hobbies, enjoy time with your family, like enjoy time with the friends who are in your unit who you're going to leave when you go to selection and might not keep in touch with them for a while. So I think, yeah, we do have an influence on those guys, but so I always try to, preach like science-backed strength conditioning principles, but like actually not just going monk mode and being miserable the entire time, but enjoying where you're at, because it's going to fly by and you're going to wish that you looked around a little bit more.
No, for all those kids listening at home, there is no looking around. The more people I interview, the more I realize it's not possible. You cannot stop and look around and enjoy what you're doing at all. No one has done it on the show so far, and I feel confidently that no one is ever going to come on the show and go, "Man, I looked around all the time and I thought it was great." No, we don't. We don't do it. Um, I do it now. You probably do it now. You're having a blast getting up every day and getting to where you want to go. But no, it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough once you find out how cool things can be, and be like, I just want to do the next cool thing. I'm just I'm exaggerating, but yes, take the time to fucking look around. And Kevin posted something the other day, and then I got in the comments and I wrote something. I was like, I never thought. I wrote it, and I was like, I never thought about it that way as I was writing it. Um, when you get used to performing and succeeding at a high level while being hungover or drinking all the time, you'll think you can do it forever, and you can't. You and You'll get to that point where it'll cross the point of diminishing returns, and you'll keep trying to push it, and then you get far past that where you're fucked. Like, you go, fuck, I'm really a detriment to myself. So there's a point in your life where you have to recognize where your recovery and your ability to recover from like fighting against yourself, because alcohol is poison when you're training for something. Um, you got to realize when that happens and maybe pull back or just change your change your schedule a little bit, or maybe we can only do this on the weekends and things like that. There will be a point where you can't do it like that anymore, and the earlier that you realize that you're at that point, the better of a career you're going to have.
100%. And the better you're going to be able to process the things that you're going to experience throughout that career. I've made some content talking about like, yes, like you can have a drink on the weekend. It's not going to, as long as you're not doing it consistently and going out and getting shit faced every night, like you're not going to destroy all your progress with a couple drinks going out with your friends or family or whatever. Doing it on a consistent basis, you absolutely will. But historically, I'm pretty uh, against guys drinking, especially on a regular basis. Partially because when I was growing up, I had my dad, my brother were raging alcoholics, and I saw the kind of the evil or the detrimental things that come with that environment and that addiction. But I also saw it inside the military, and I think the military drinking culture, especially in special forces, an environment where the likelihood of you experiencing trauma is very high, pairing trauma with a depressant that also stunts your ability to process information is a very dangerous mixture. So I think in terms of mental health inside the military, the drinking culture is very detrimental and does lead to an increased risk of running those issues or being in a very dark place because of the things you experience. So I tell guys, like, obviously take a realistic approach. Like, if you're going out for a celebration, whatever, but that's one thing. But doing it on a consistent basis, especially in this environment, I think you have a heightened level of responsibility to not become dependent on substances such as alcohol.
Yeah, the shop that's always open. They'll always sell you more, and that cashier doesn't remember you. She doesn't know that you got a problem. She just ringing stuff up and sending it out the door, and that's it. So, um, yeah, it's too bad. But it's an easy button. You push it, and I'm not pro like you go out and drink. You should be able to do whatever the fuck you want. Like
Right.
if you want to
Right.
go out and drink, and I think we should be able to order. You know, never. That's a little extreme, but you should be able to order a fully loaded tank off of Amazon Prime, next day shipping with the HE rounds in it. This should be a free country. Things might get a little out of control if we have that level of openness, but still, that's what I think you should be able to do. So go out and get all as fucked up as you want. But um, I pushed it to the point where I don't drink anymore. I can't drink anymore. That was it. There was a hard line, and now I don't drink at all sober. And if you let it get you, it's gonna take your life. And I've said it on here. We got a suicide epidemic in the military and the veteran community, and part of that epidemic that we don't talk about at all is the people that are too afraid to kill themselves uh, acutely, like cut it off, right? Like the ones that are willing to destroy their family, destroy their personal life, uh, and slowly kill themselves by drinking or substance abusing themselves to death. We don't talk about that, as that's part of suicide. That's part of the epidemic as well. Like these people they're not ready to pull the trigger, but they're ready to drink a handle of vodka every day and kill everything around them, including themselves. Um, so a much deeper discussion, pretty depressing, but I think you said the influence, right? I think that is another responsibility because you have a lot more influence than I do. I have a little bit, but I will talk about the shit like
Yeah, 100%.
openly. It fucking ruined my life for months when my friend killed himself, and long time. And people don't. They hear it's bad, right? They start hearing numbers. Yeah, no, it's fucking way worse than that. Like way worse than that. I think there is some, bit of responsibility if you're using this stuff as a background or any military background as like your foot in the door somewhere to talk about the really bad shit. to bring it up to other people because nothing's going to change. Take the PACT Act, right? That only took a few years, which doesn't seem like a quick, but for the U.S. government to do something in only a few years, that's pretty fast. Like, look how long it took for Agent Orange, right? Decades. Um, so they got the PACT Act going. So if we can bring this into the forefront and get people fucking mad about it, maybe we can make some change and get people going. Maybe we need to investigate this. Get some Congress. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people with more influence that are talking about it, but everybody that's in the community needs to be talking about all of these issues. Now we got operator syndrome that's coming up. We're recognizing the symptoms of overpressure and lifestyle and things like that. So I think that's one thing that we need to take fucking seriously on the backside of things.
Yeah. And even, even if it doesn't influence large scale change and, organizational change, things like that, like even talking about this and catching someone in a bad moment and maybe it resonates with them and maybe it influences their mindset to start thinking about it differently or change their actions, like that's a freaking win. I'll take that all day long. And that conversation was very worth it if it influenced one individual to clean up their life or pull themselves out of a hole.
Yeah. And just like the way I said it, right, is maybe somebody will hear it and they just wouldn't think because I didn't think about it that way that I was trying to kill myself drinking. But fuck yeah, I was. Like, yeah, that amount of alcohol for that amount of time, uh, absolutely. And now I can see it. Then I can't see it. So maybe if somebody hears it and it's just in a different guy that came on the show, Adam Klakowitz, right? He said, the light bulb theory. You can show your partner force how to do something 55 times, but then you bring in your junior Charlie over here and he shows them to him one time and fucking gets it. Well, it's that's the loosening the lid on the pickle jar. Now you got it, so that they get it. So the more people, and we go back to what we said in the beginning, right? Everybody knows the basics. That the basics are there because they fucking work. But if we don't hear it over and over again or hear it from different people in different ways, it's not going to get anywhere. So that's one thing where the more we talk about it and the more we say things, and people may hear it in a different light and go, what am I doing? What am I doing to the people around me? What am I doing to myself, my friends, people that look up to me, and things like that. So when it comes to influence, that's fucking what it's all about. That's what I think anyway. Yeah.
I agree. I do. Like, I saw your reel about that too. And I 100% agree. We do have a responsibility. And that's why sometimes, the content can be polished or come across as that. Like, obviously, I'm always going to deliver content that is true or I genuinely think it's true. I'm not going to get it right every single time. Sure, there's going to be errors along the way. But if we put out content that is specifically for clicks or controversial or representing the brand bad or something like that, like how does that look to somebody that's looking to go into that environment? So for me, when I put content out, I don't just do it to give value, but I do it to maintain some sort of professionalism that ideally represents the brand as a whole in a professional aspect. So when you put that out the other night, I was like 100% agree. I think we do have a heightened level of responsibility having eyeballs, especially young, impressionable eyeballs on us. When I was 18, 19, 20 years old, had something like this existed, that would have been someone that I looked up to and someone who I would have adopted probably a lot of their same thought processes and mindsets on certain topics because a lot of times as a young individual you just haven't thought about many of those things. It's not that you don't have the capacity to, just you haven't explored it or experienced it in a way that's going to shape your mindset or your personal beliefs on something. So what do? We listen to something, and if it resonates with us and makes sense to us, we might adopt it as something, as our own. So I think with opinions, with things like that, we do have a heightened level of responsibility to at least push guys towards positivity, healthy mindsets, strong, resilient, healthy body, things like that. So absolutely agree.
Yeah. That's I feel infinitely better. Like, so my funny stuff's my funny stuff. That's just and trying to make stuff that people laugh. Like it's a
Yeah,
joke,
there's nothing
people. It's a
wrong. There's
joke.
absolutely nothing wrong with
It's a
that.
fucking joke.
Yeah.
I'm just joking around. Like, don't get bent out of shape. Um, but like when I put something out, I'm like, yeah, that's that was an on the spot answer. Clip, send it out. I'm not gonna, I'll take the pauses out and shit to make it fit into the timelines and things like that. But that I love that stuff more than all the other stuff that I put out. Like when it's like, okay, that's exactly what I wanted to say. That was a off the cuff answer. It's nothing scripted right there. I was like, that's exactly how I feel right then. That's what I like to put out. So I like some of that stuff, and just to be, positive, and like you said, somebody will see it. People are seeing it. It blows my mind even more all the time. Uh, but like I said, I'm just a nobody from a fucking cornfield in Antioch, Illinois, and I did extraordinary things. And man, if somebody can see that I am that, and I have a lot of friends that came from fucking nowhere towns that do crazy things, then fuck, you can too. Like there's nothing stopping it. There are these opportunities. Yeah, you might have to sign and do some other stuff and go some places you don't want to go, but you know, you can do some fucking cool shit if you really work at it, and just try. Um, and there's a lot of ways to do it. And just, like I said earlier, everybody starts at zero. Like one of the things behind this is nobody in my phone, like no background of friends or fame or everything, started all platforms at zero at January. And I just want, like, if somebody can see, oh fuck, Nick did that. Well, I've been wanting to do this, and I want to start my own thing. And then message, yeah, fucking let's start it up. Here's what I did. Just grab all the platforms, and let me know if you have any questions. Just be positive and supportive and stuff. Like, you don't know who you're influencing and things like that. So yeah, it's strange. It's weird. But I love it. I'm having so much fucking fun.
You're crushing it, man.
I'm having fun, man. And I'm getting to meet so many people. Like, um, yeah, this will come out later. So I was messaging a guy, and I was like, man, I got the parade speech yesterday. I'm not going to make it home. Like, message me when you're on your way back, and we'll see if we record tonight, which was last night. And he didn't get back to me until this morning. He says, yeah, I didn't get back till late. And then I had to, I had to take a phone call. I didn't know if I was going to have to, I'm going on to film with Mr. Beast tomorrow. And I'm like,
Whoa.
what? Like, who? Like, really? So I'm now, like, from just reaching out to people and stuff. I'm like, I'm 1 degree of separation from people that I like aren't even on my fucking radar
Yeah.
on before. And then you start realizing, like, all I gotta do is work. Like, all I gotta do is work and put out content, and just, like, when I don't want to do it, okay, that's probably what I need to be doing. I need to be doing that. Okay, I don't feel like making another reel. I don't know how to learn about this, or putting this together. Well, maybe I need to be doing that and things like that. And then I'm getting closer to just having fun all the time. Like, I'm having, like, yeah, some of it's monotonous, but like, I'm excited to wake up in the morning to, like, see my goal towards my next 50 followers, who liked my stuff and things like that. I got another episode coming out every 2 days. I'm having fun with that. So I'm just excited. And I just want people to be like, see that and be like, yeah, I could do that too. Because I've looked at other guys, and you're included in there. I was like, I can do that too. And
Yeah.
there's nothing,
100%.
I'm not going after their business. They're not going after mine. And I can do it too. And so you don't know who you're inspiring and things like
Right.
that. So it's fucking, I'm having a blast. And hopefully other people can realize that they can have fucking fun too, man. Yeah, hopefully. But what, you said you were private in 160th. First of all, so, you're a helicopter mechanic? Did you
I
come in
was,
as,
yeah.
or yeah?
Yeah.
Well, how did you end up in 160th right away?
It's kind of a funny story.
Here we
So
go.
yeah. So kind of whole backstory to it. My, I ended up, my mom and a good buddy of mine ended up getting together. So he became my stepbrother in high school. Well, his dad was a former Green Beret. He was a Green Beret during the Cold War, got out early 90s. So before I ever met him, but growing up, going throughout high school, I heard all those stories. So I pretty much knew like I want to become a Green Beret. That was implanted in my seed when I was a teenager. So I graduated high school. My stepbrother also joined the military. This was 2012. He went in as a 35 mic human intelligence. Um, I wanted to go the 18X route, but I was too young. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to go do a stepping stone job and fill some time, maybe get some deployments in before going to selection. So I chose EOD, which was right around the time that Hurt Locker came out. So completely got me, psyoped me. Failed the hell out of EOD, which I always say like that the failure of EOD school was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me at that time, because up until that point, I was kind of like I was a gifted athlete, but I didn't work very hard. So I didn't never went anywhere with it. I was, you know, I kind of skated by through high school and just never really like dialed anything in, never really worked hard towards anything in particular. So I thought I was going to take those shitty study habits and bad discipline into EOD and just skate by like I always did. I did not, which thankfully kind of opened my eyes to it. So I ended up with a 6-year contract. And after I failed EOD, I was needs of the Army. So and it's kind of funny. Like when you fail, you go to the 5th floor of this building, and it's all the failures that failed out of EOD school. And there was, they're waiting on orders, and there was like 200 of us, just a massive amount. Everyone's super negative, has needs of the Army, whatever. So very kind of crazy environment. So that was my first kind of entrance into the Army. And then I ended up getting needs of the Army reclassed to 15 Golf, which is aircraft structural repair. So I was going to work on sheet metal, which is like the opposite of what I wanted to do going in the Army. Like I wanted to be a Green Beret on the ground, go fight in Afghanistan, do all this stuff. So I was bummed. But during AIT for 15 Golf for aircraft structural repair, I went to a brief for the 160th, and they showed videos of guys fast roping out of helicopters and wearing nods and doing all this stuff. So I was like, that's what I want. And it was funny because I got orders for Kauterbach, Germany. And I was like, no, I volunteered for the 160th. He said, if you write your name down on this piece of paper, like you're going to the 160th. I actually graduated the course and then still had orders to Germany. Like I refused to go buy a ticket. They told me I had to like go buy a ticket. Like you're leaving to Germany tomorrow. Like you're not going to the 160th. So I went to the lady who I knew kind of was in charge of the orders, cutting the orders for everybody. I just like sat outside her office and like would check on like, go up there and ring the bell and talk to her, and just kept doing that for the entire day after graduation until she finally was like, okay, here's your orders for the 160th. Get out of here. And then I was shipped out to Fort Campbell instead and ended up going to Green Platoon. So I kind of fought my way into the 160th just because I thought it was my path towards something cool after that monumental failure of VOD school. But it ended up being a really great experience. And even as an airframe guy who worked on drones, I ended up working on the MQ-1 Charlie Gray Eagle. I had a great time, had some great deployments, met some really cool guys, and was just kind of shocked with how great the organization is as a whole.
Nothing wrong with failing early or even in the middle or at the end, right? Like it's how you recover from it. Like I didn't notice until really I started talking and doing these that I disregarded my first trip to selection when I got hurt myself. And somebody asked me like, "How'd you feel?" I was like, "I felt like shit, man. They lumped me in with all the people that quit. Like I couldn't bend my fucking leg, and I just got lumped in with them, and I hung out, and I felt like shit." And I just remember getting ready to go back. I was like, I'm never going to let that happen ever again. And then I just didn't. Like, I didn't know at the time, but I just destroyed every phase of the course that I went to. Just fucking showed up, passed it, and moved on. I don't know how, because no background in it, like just weird things. I joke, and my viewers have heard me say this. Like I was in the first easy class, but it wasn't that it was easy. It still fucking sucked. But I just that's what it did. It was just got it done, and then moved on to the next thing where people right next to me had a fucking shittier time than I did, and we were in the same class and the same squad sometimes, and things like that. So that's just how it was. But how did you feel when you failed EOD? Was that brought you back to earth and kind of recentered you on that goal?
Yeah, and it was, I mean, it was a gut punch. I really looked up. I still look up to my stepdad, who was at Green Beret in the Cold War and things like that. And going into the military, he had so much pride in it, and like I was feeding off of that and things like that. So having to make a phone call and be like, I just failed the first thing I ever tried out at in the military after he was my example, was hard to do, and it sucked. Like I was kind of down in the dirt, all that type of stuff. But he had a really good conversation with me of basically like, hey, look, like this happens. It's not gonna, and it's gonna fly by. Like you're gonna get a different job. You're gonna make the most of it. And then you're gonna volunteer for shit and you're gonna fight your way out of it. Like there's always a route out of a failure. And there's always a way to bounce back. So, like I said, I think me failing that course at that time was more beneficial than if I would have skated through it and done what I normally did up until that point and just kind of do the bare minimum, because it really did like light a fire under my ass and push me to identify study habits and how I can learn information best, push me to really, like, for the first time in my life, prioritizing the value of intelligence and the value of learning and implementing information, push me towards like how difficult something could be, and on the physical aspect, like what you said, you're never going to let that happen again. Lit that fire under me to where I'm never going to let a failure like that happen again. Like obviously, things happen down the road and we bounce back from it, but I'm going to do everything I can and check every single block to ensure that I put myself in the best position possible to succeed at whatever I do. And that's what I did after that point. And had I not failed, I would have not had that mindset. And who knows? I might not have been where I'm at now. So everything happens for a reason, I think, in that regard.
Yeah. And the EOD school is no joke either.
Yeah, it's
They,
tough. It's tough.
yeah, they're what did they tell us in the Charlie course? Um, we do not render safe. That's EOD's job. We just blow
Yep.
it in place or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
The cadre was
Exactly.
always like, when in doubt, just fucking bip it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, just blow it up or mark it and drive away and call it up. That's what they said. But yeah, fuck it. Why did you pick EOD though? Like, how did you settle?
I actually talked about this last week as well on my show, but to be completely honest, there's two reasons. One was because Hurt Locker had just come out, so it was top of mind.
Come
And
on.
two, I don't know, I swear, dude, I was that 18-year-old freaking influenced, young, impressionable mind. And number two was I wanted to do something harder than my brother.
Oh, okay.
We always had that competitive nature, and he joined intelligence. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do something more challenging than him, because like for me at that point, and this is why I put that reel out a couple of days ago, saying like encouraging guys to actually research the job and like do it because they genuinely want to. But for me at that point, I didn't give a shit what job I had as long as it was challenging and I pushed myself in those first couple of years, because I knew it was just a stepping stone to go special forces. So like I just wanted some experience to be in the military and things like that. So like it could have been any job. But that was the wrong answer. And looking back at my 18-year-old self, definitely would have gone a different route, or at least studied and researched the specific path a little bit better. But yeah, to be completely honest, those are the two reasons why I went that route.
I think it was 18 good guy when he was on here. He went to a National Guard PSYOPs unit, I believe. And when he sat down with the NCOIC, he's like, yeah, I hope you didn't think this was like psychology. And he goes, well, yeah, kind of I did, actually. And now it's not. That's not exactly what it was. Like, oh, okay. So there's a lot of information out there now. Do research what you're getting yourself into because, you know, I don't know. There's no such thing as military intelligence. That's the joke. But military intel is not that like prestigious. Having been in, it's not like there's no selection. You just get it, and then you go to the school, and then you are it, or anything like that. Um, but then you get in, and there's everything changes, and there's all this other cool shit. And then you get to group, and they're like, hey, there's all this other cool shit behind this curtain. And then you go behind that curtain, they're like, oh man, we got like so many curtains back here. What do you want to do? So it's fucking all kinds of options once you get to that level. So you get over to what you get to Green Platoon, and how'd you fare there? Because you said you're always good physically, and Green Platoon's kind of rough to get through. What were you thinking at that point?
Man, I loved it. I
Yeah.
actually had a really great time in Cream Platoon. Like, there's times where you get smoked and you got to go through the pit and, black day where you're freaking doing it for 20 hours a day or whatever. But it's a really cool course. It's kind of structured as a training course. So you spend a week on the range, you spend a week doing medical, you spend a week doing combatives, and then a week doing land nav. And that was the shit I wanted to do. Like, even, growing up and before I got in the military, I wanted to do soldier stuff. And that's exactly that was like my first time ever learning like soldier stuff. So I ate it up. And it was really like stoked my motivation and put me on a good foot of like being excited to be in the 160th and starting that career path. So yeah, I think the pipeline, the Green Platoon pipeline, is a fantastic way to get into the organization as a whole. Really good training value, even outside the smoke sessions. And I think it was a lot of fun when I went through.
I episode 6, Nick O'Kelly, but he went through as a pilot. So it seemed like so are is was your pipeline a little more similar to SFAS in that they gave you the tools to succeed also because his were you kind of already were expected to show up with the skills as a because I mean you had to be a like a warrant officer too maybe even to get into as a pilot and so combat deployment under your belt already been flying around doing a lot of things. So theirs was how he described it was different than what you're describing. So is it
Very,
more similar? Yeah.
very different. Yeah. For I don't know, we had guys going through like the officer one because there's OGP and there's EGP, enlisted green platoon and officer green platoon. OGP is much more boards, like they'll still do some of the training, but it's more of like making sure this guy is going to be a good representation of the unit. And then after that pipeline, I'm sure he talked to you about it, they have a very long pipeline of actually flying and making sure that they can meet the standards there. On the enlisted side, like after you get through green platoon, you're FMQ freaking maintainer or whatever. So the it's much more like in your face, black shirts, yelling at you, smoking you, kicking your gear around, like playing all the games. But once you get past that, like first 10 days or so, then it's much more about like the training value and making a soldier out of you. So definitely different environments. I wouldn't say like one, like probably the officer one is more challenging to be successful in because they're actually selecting you. In the enlisted one, it's probably more physically challenging, but as long as you don't quit really and you like pass land nav, which is one of the only like big tests you have to do, you get through it. It's not like a selection where you get to the end, they're like, no, we don't want you. It's more of like a survival type course. Like as long as you can maintain a good attitude, pass the test that they tell you to pass, and not do something illegal, like you're going to get through.
Don't do anything illegal, kids. Where does the Green Platoon's land nav rank in the long walk ranger SFAS star course? Where does it rank in there? Is it pretty easy?
Very easy. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the points you're traveling 500 meters, it's a 5 hour course. You start at like 3 in the morning. I did it in September. So you have an hour and a half, 2 hours of dark, and then the rest is light. But for me, I grew up in the city and I'd never done land nav up until that point at all. Like I'd never even been in the woods until, that experience. So for me, it was challenging at the time. And I remember I found my fifth point. You have to find 5 points to pass. And it started pouring rain. And up until you find your fifth point, you can't go on roads. So similar in that aspect to SFAS. But after that fifth point, you can go back to the start point using the roads. And I found my fifth point. It started pouring rain. I jumped out on the road and I'm like, I'm going to be a fucking night stalker. Like started running back. So it was a really, really exciting portion of it. But looking back, not very challenging.
Okay. Yeah, the star is something else. Like it was fucking. So did you when you went through the course? Did you have to do IUW or was that over by the time you went through?
For the Q course?
Yeah,
Yeah, I did.
you did
That
IU.
that land nav was a bitch.
So you were part of that. I'm trying to find out from interviews here when they stopped IUW because that one, I guess they don't do that one anymore. And if for your guys coming through the pipeline, like that was a killer. Like it didn't matter. Dudes, we were passing like 25% of the dudes that I went out there with. Like it was a massacre. And like dudes had just come from selection, past selection. So we start phase one, or it wasn't even maybe phase one, and we're starting up, and then they're getting dropped like full PCS moves out there and getting dropped right away because they can't get 5 for 5, or I think you needed 7 if you didn't get all 7 of 10 if you didn't get 5 for 5.
Yeah, on the first day, you had to do it again the second day. I remember that.
That's the hardest day of my life, right? Is
That
that day.
that was the hardest land nav course I've ever done. I actually I found all 8 at the star course in
Yep.
SFAS. I didn't think that was bad. Like after I graduated EGP, I went out to Fort Huachuca actually, and I got obsessed with hunting. Like I'd never hunted in my life up until that point. I just started watching YouTube videos, and every freaking weekend I was out in the woods. Moved to Tennessee, did the same thing. So when I went to selection, I had spent a lot of time in the woods. Did well at SFAS in the star course, and then yeah, definitely that course at IUW was by far the hardest land nav course I had ever done. Harder than the star course for sure.
And all right, this is not saying anyone had it easier or harder than anybody else, but
Class hard class. Yeah.
I no, I was for so but
First easy class.
the longer IUW went on, I'm sure that there were paths starting to get worn in. So you went later. I heard about the classes before we went, of it's a fucking like jungle out there. Like there's no pass through the draws. And then students were getting dropped for going out there with chainsaws and like cutting paths, like
Yeah.
trying to find ways because they dropped and they're like, I'm not getting recycled for IUW and going out there and cutting paths. And you could see them though by when I went through because the bus. If you went to the bus and you shot like
Bus.
150 or something like that, and you just didn't fucking come off that, you would go through this yellow brick road through this massive draw, and you would end up right at the point. And that path got carved, I think, 2 or 3 classes before me of students that were like, I'm not failing. Fuck this. Because the cadre weren't going out there to catch people at that point because I don't think IUW was that old. And yeah, dudes were bushwhacking shit. They were fucking cheating and fucking
Oh
hiding.
yeah,
They were
hiding
hiding
GPSs. Yeah,
GPSs out there and shit.
guys
Um,
in my class did that.
really, that's fucked
Yeah,
up. Like no, I wasn't bringing that shame upon my
no,
household. Like, no,
there
I
was
even
no way I
felt
was
we
gonna risk it. Yeah,
No, no, you don't know. You don't know what the fuck technology Green Berets had. You don't know. You didn't know till you got into group. You did like, I'm not gonna. I don't know what these guys have assets or have available at their fingertips. It's bad enough they're out here with fucking nods, hiding in draws, fucking with people going through draws. That's something they don't tell you about. Is guys would get back after the full day of land and go, yeah, I was in the draw, and then climbing up out of there and somebody just grabbed my ass and pushed me up the berm. I'm like, no, the fuck they didn't. And then you'd hear somebody else tell a similar story. There's cadre hanging out in draws fucking with people. So yeah, it's a fucking weird time in the course, as Dave Walton said. He said that was where they were fucking with the course the most. It was those years. So no, fuck that. Interesting. Ugh, fuck that. But as I said, that was the hardest day of my fucking life. Was
same.
that I went
Yeah,
down with a heat cap probably 6 hours in, um, and I just remember I lost a whole hour trying to, I went all my water, just sipping it, like just sipping it, trying to come back to life. And I finally just went, all right, we're back, and let's go. And finished with like 40 minutes left to go, just tatters. I was broken. I was a broken man at that point. But I
Yeah,
got my five.
that was a terrible, terrible course. And our night too, we not saying it was harder by any means. It was definitely just a hard area to land nav in. And then there's all these like down trees in the fields and
They were
freaking
logging them and they just drop them.
yeah. So you're just like climbing over trees for freaking hours. But we got out there that first night, and I have a picture of this on my phone that one of the medics took from the van. But we got out there that first night, and it just started pissing rain, thunderstorms, lightning. So they had us all go out in the field with our ponchos and get in lightning formation. So we were spread across this like massive field, hunched down in like all staying 25 meters apart from each other. So if one guy got struck with lightning, we didn't all get crushed. And then we stayed like that until like 2 in the morning, and then they're like, "All right, begin." So we like started that night. That was just a terrible start. I remember like, your clothes are wet and you're climbing logs. I like ripped my pants from my freaking crotch down to my ankle. Like it was just a rough time. That was definitely I forgot. I try not to think about that, I guess, but that was one of the hardest parts of the Q course in that freaking 2 day land nav course.
No, it was by far the hardest day. And we were fine. Perfect weather, day one. Got my five. I was like, fuck yeah. We get on the buses and a fucking thunder hurricane rolls in. Well, one dude, like, you know, cadre, they're counting down, and this dude, it's like Monty Python. You see this dude just running across the field, and the cadre are counting down, and they get there like, you made it, candidate. Give me your scorecard. And he left it back
Oh
at the
my
point that's like on the edge. So he gets zero. He couldn't get it. He couldn't go get, I guess he couldn't find it or something like that. He left it, and he got zero that first night. And this storm rolls in, and that mother. I think about this dude all the. I don't know even know if this is true, but I think it is because it's. We were still all in formation. He went 5 for 5 that second night in the thunderstorm, in the fucking hurricane that rolled in. Fucking
wow.
killer. I don't even know who it is. I don't even know his name or anything, but he that dude went out 5 for 5, murdered it the next night, and
Dude,
fucking it's like that's what it means right there. The ultimate setback, and you can fucking, but because you have to. If you get zero the first night, you better be getting five the second night, and
yeah.
he did. So that's one
Wow.
thing. You never know who's. There are people out there that you don't even know that don't even know you that you think about all the time. And if you think about somebody like that, there's somebody out there that's thinking about you and something you did well or did poorly, or you a dick, or you were a good person or something like that. So
Sure. For sure.
crazy, crazy
Wow.
community. So I hope someday somebody will hear some of these stories and we can start linking some of this shit together.
Right.
Um, and weird shit like that. What was life like in 160th as a private?
Um, Pretty good actually. I had a platoon sergeant who he kind of started like I alluded it to in the beginning, but he just started playing games with me, which I think it was part of because I said I wanted to go special forces, so he was like he took it upon himself to toughen me up, and in that kind of point in my life, like I was not, it was just unnecessary. So that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. But other than that situation, absolutely loved it. I was just working on planes. I went on a trip to Afghanistan, Iraq during that time. And then anytime I was home, I freaking was hunting. I started out in Fort Huachuca, so southern Arizona, and first hunting I got into down there was just coyote hunting, and literally I just kept my gun in my truck at all times, and I would go hunting at first light for an hour before PT. I was just like that addicted to it. And then same thing happened when I went to Tennessee. So what happened was we started the unit in Huachuca, and then we had the rights to fly the drones or something, and we moved the entire unit to Tennessee. So after I got to Tennessee, I got big into deer hunting. You're probably into deer hunting out where you're at. No, really, you got some of the best deer in the country out there, man.
They're always in there. Yeah, just not my thing. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, man. So every chance I got, I was either working out, or hunting. That was like my life. In summer, I was fishing, bass fishing on a boat, but that's literally all I did with one of my good friends.
So this whole time though, you got that goal of going to selection and you got a 3-year commitment. Did you but you had a pretty good idea of what a Green Beret was, or did you? Because once you got there, because once I get to group, I was like, oh, well, this is way different than I thought it was going to be. Even going through the course and things like that, you know. But you knew exactly what you were going for, right?
Yeah, I still always wanted to go SF. I still trained for it. There was a point where I was having such a good time in the 160th and I was doing cool stuff, like we were deploying, traveling around, all that stuff, that I was like, maybe I just stay here. I kind of started asking myself that. And then it was my second deployment. I went to Iraq, and it was really, honestly, like one of the coolest trips, even now. Like I went to Afghanistan with group, and this trip I learned a shit ton. So we had to do what's called a site build at the time. So basically we had to build a hangar. It was 5 of us total. We built this like 150-foot hangar. We built a tactical operations center, all this stuff, and we had to do it in a very short period of time because there was a fifth group team that was out there that needed close air support, and we were one of the only assets at that time. It was like right when ISIS started kicking off again. So we knocked that out. We freaking busted our ass, worked like 18-hour days for 8 weeks straight, and just absolutely loved it. And then ended up getting the planes up and supporting them, and then watching through the Predator feed, like the operations that we were supporting for the SF guys. I was like sitting, I can like remember some of the operations. I was sitting in the talk and like watching it, and I just felt like I was in the wrong place. I was like, I'm on the outside looking in, and like that's where I need to be. Like actually seeing them do the operations, and like I just felt this like overwhelming feeling of sitting on the sidelines. So after that deployment was when I came back and I was like, all right, no shit, now I'm going to selection. So then I went and talked to the recruiters, and ended up going to selection in January of that following year.
What's the attitude of leaving 160th and going to selection? Is because I know it's not acceptable in Ranger Regiment, and then generally they're like the regular army doesn't even know what SF is, and if they do, they have some bad experience, like your leader went to selection and failed or quit. So it's kind of just a weird hit or miss thing in the regular army. What's 160th think about it?
So the motto of in the 160th is Night Stalkers don't quit. So it's even in like their blue book handbook that they give you. If you go to a course and you quit, you're also kicked out of the regiment. So they were pretty supportive of going SF as long as you fulfill that 3-year commitment. But if you go to any course and they find out that you were a VDub, you're also getting a letter of release from the 160th. So in my particular situation, I had a pretty good reputation there. I waited until that couple year mark or 2-year mark to go to selection. And prior to going, I sat down with my first sergeant and was like, hey, look, win or lose, I'm going to stay here for the following year and fulfill my third year commitment. And then after that conversation, he was like, go freaking crush it. And very supportive. But had I been like, hey, I'm going to selection and I'm going to PCS as soon as I can when I get back, they I've seen it happen before. They basically say like, win or lose, you're out of the regiment. So you better freaking make sure you pass. But typically, if you wait until that 3-year mark, they're going to be supportive, and you'll still have a home if it doesn't work out.
Was there a lot of RFS going on in 160th, or leave for standard?
Yeah. Not necessarily like there was some like physical fitness type stuff, but a lot of it was discipline. And it was the same thing, kind of what we talked about, of guys, obviously showing a high level of discipline and performance to get through Green Platoon, but then they get in the regiment and they take advantage of a lot of the freedoms because you're not in the big army. It's more, you have a lot more freedoms than regular army would. So take a lot advantage of a lot of those, not doing their job, trouble on deployments, those types of things will definitely get you kicked out of the regiment.
Well, people are going to fuck up no matter what, no matter every unit. You give them enough leeway or enough rope, they're going to hang themselves. But
Well, I know Green Berets, they got kicked out,
oh,
so
Yeah,
all the
it
time.
happens.
Yeah.
But I was saying talking with one person, they were down about it, and I went, man, everybody in group is one decision away from getting kicked out at any time, at any given time. Like it just you, and most people just didn't get caught. Like if they're like that wasn't me, they're probably fucking lying. You know, so um, I don't get too caught up or hung up about it. So that's
Yeah.
shit happens, and we make endless bad decisions. We just didn't get in trouble. So lucky to this point, and I'm gonna hopefully keep that going and stop making bad decisions myself. But well, you, you seem like you research the subject pretty well before you get into something. Did you know what you were getting into in selection? Because there was more material out when you went than when I went. I didn't fucking know anything other than that, 2 weeks in hell. Did you know what you were doing when you got there?
I knew the structure just from reading Get Selected and watching 2 Weeks in Hell. Beyond that, like I wasn't, you know, talking to anybody and any mentorship, things like that. Like I asked questions of the recruiters, but I also had kind of a short, like proper prep. I felt like I was always, I actually tell you guys not to do it this way now, but for 2 years, I was in like a selection prep program, just crushing myself, ruck running all the time. So like I was fit. I had a couple of injuries that I experienced because of that, but I was like fit and like ready to go pretty much that entire time. But as far as like knowing about SFAS, aside from just like, hey, gate week, land nav, team week, I didn't know all of the kind of intricacies. I didn't know anything about climbing a rope or not tying knots, like never considered any of that stuff. Um, and that's like, I encourage guys to learn the basic, um, like square lashing, freaking water knot, like all the basic stuff. Like make sure you can climb a rope and your technique is solid, but you don't want to G to it to the point where you get there and you think you know what's coming next, because then if it changes, like you're going to have a lot of anxiety outside of that, or just be one of those annoying guys that always has the G2 and ends up being wrong. Like you don't want to be that guy. So I knew a decent amount, but I didn't know like everything. There was definitely some guys there that knew more than myself. And I talk about this a lot too. Like I had that my selection prep, like finally, like no shit, I'm going to selection, was like 6 weeks. And my recruiter never really told me anything about tying knots. Like he told me to learn the water knot, and he never said anything about like what it's for, or you're going to have to build apparatuses. Didn't really know shit about that. So I will say when I got to team week, and I ended up on my team, all the National Guard guys that had gone through the SFRE process and like learned all that stuff, I looked at them. I was like, damn, dude, these guys are way more prepared than me. Like, what can I carry? So there's value in knowing that type of stuff. But in my situation, I was much like yourself of like, I just know I want to do it. I'm fit enough to do it. I'm going to go give it hell. And the rest will kind of work out.
Well, good for you. The team I was on for the apparatus was a disaster. We made a boat anchor and we fucking pushed it for hours.
Damn.
And that was it. We made the monster truck, I think, is what we fell victim to. We made that, and no, it was just bad. All the other ones I remember being fine, and just tough. You get through it. Like pushing the Jeep, there's only so many ways to push the Jeep, but the apparatus is one where things can go really sideways, like really get off the rails. Like this is a bad idea, and you stick to it, and it gets worse. That one I remember fucking sucking so bad. Fuck. So what was it like getting selected? Because I know for me it was like the fucking pinnacle. Like up until that point, I was needs of the army, but now it was all up to me. Like all the effort was on me to be successful, and I that was the moment where it all changed for me. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it was um, definitely like one of the peak parts of my career for sure. Definitely a big relief, I would say. But I would also say it was kind of surreal. Like I was confident in my kind of physical abilities. Like I just my kind of thought process I took into selection of like was I'm not going to concern myself with my performance. I'm not going to concern myself with what the cadre think of me. All I'm going to do is just freaking show up, put in the work, and if I'm there towards the end, then fantastic. Like that was kind of the thought process I took into it. And I remember it was like we got into like past land nav, and then when I was still looking around the formation that was a lot smaller, I was like, I'm still here, like badass. We got past, team week, and or like towards the end when we were standing out formation, you're standing outside the building waiting for them to call you in to let you know whether you got selected or not. And I was like looking around, I was like, damn, like still here, like kind of surreal. Didn't really feel like any certain way about it. And then when I finally got that paper of like I'm selected, it took a while to hit me. Like all that work and like the dream of doing as a teenager kind of accumulated into that spot, and I was like excited, but it wasn't like this like grandiose moment of like, oh, like you're selected. And I was just like, all right, time to do the work, on to the next thing type of thing. So definitely felt good, but it was kind of that like, all right, now I'm in it. Now I have years of work ahead of me. So what do I need to do next?
What was it like getting back to your unit? You got your golden ticket, but you still got a year to do. What was that year like?
That was that best year of my career. I had so much fun that year. So it was really uh so when I was prepping up for selection, I had that old crusty platoon sergeant that was from the 82nd back in the day. And we kind of had like a weird relationship where like I thought he liked me and he was like doing all this stuff, like putting me through the ringer, being really hard on me to try to set me up. But he was also just kind of being an asshole. And when I was going to selection, he would tell me all the time, he's like, oh, I'll see you in a week. I'll see you in a week. See you in 2 weeks. And he was like this guy from down south. But he would always basically tell me I'm going to quit or fail. Like, I'm going to see you back here soon, like whatever. So when I passed selection, it was cool calling my stepdad, telling him I passed, all that stuff. But one of the best feelings of walking back into my unit and like slapping that on his desk and be like, fucking passed. Like, I don't want to hear anything from you. So that felt nice. But that year was really cool. Kind of because I did that, there was guys that went to selection from my unit. It was like a plank holder unit. So we are really new within the 160th, and I was the first one to actually pass. So everyone was like, "Oh, like wow, you passed selection." Asked me questions about it, stuff like that. But also my first sergeant at the time, who was an awesome guy, walked into the gym one day and I was lifting, and he's like, "How do you feel about doing the best warrior competition?" I was like, "No, no, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm just going to focus on Q course prep, all that stuff." And he's like, kind of like nods, walks out. And next day, my platoon sergeant calls me in the office. He's like, "Hey, you're doing the best warrior competition. Like, these are the
Yeah, of
dates."
course you, of course you
Yeah.
are.
So ended up being a really cool experience. So ended up winning for the regiment and going out to USASOC and competing for like in front of General Tovo and all those guys. So it was like that whole process of like the multiple competitions that kind of spread out through the spring and summer, and then the rest of the summer was spent fishing, hunting, hanging out with friends. So like that whole year was just like training, going to these competitions, fishing, hunting, hanging out with friends, and getting ready for the Q course. So it was actually a really really fun year, to be honest.
Fuck yeah. Um, I didn't know that if you, because I went PT and platoon science, like we need somebody to go to a board today. And I was like, I'll go. Well, I didn't know when I did that if you win, you don't stop going. You just keep
Yeah.
going until you lose. So we're at the post soldier of the year board, and the guy that ended up winning, his orders got canceled. He's supposed to PCS like in a couple weeks, and I don't know if I got second or third. I think I got second, but like we were all fine. The guys that lost, we PCS'd. Like we're all leaving. That dude had to fucking stay and keep competing, and then shit like that. So yeah, it would have been cool to go to the next level, but I already wasn't having a good time doing that. I wanted to get the fuck out of there. So
Yeah.
some of those things, if you know, so it was best that that didn't happen. Like I was like, I don't want to fucking do this. I don't like the boards. And I just, on to the next thing, guys. I want to go to Bragg. Get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here.
I will say though, for guys like Obviously each unit is different. In my experience, it ended up being so beneficial. Like had I stayed in the 160th after that experience, like I could put in for, a school of my choosing, or like had a lot of pull for jumping on deployments or changing over to whatever. So um, four guys in a unit like that, or even within group, like if you compete in that stuff, one, a lot of times you'll win like ARs and like the winner. I took third in the USASOC one, but the winner, who was a ranger, won like a $2,000 scar, like all this stuff, like just a he ended up winning like $5,000 worth of guns and equipment. Um, and like you get hooked up, like you get a school of your choosing. So he went to free fall. Like they take care of you if you really perform in those competitions. And for me, like I was the same way. I don't want to do it, but once I was told I was going to do it and realized it was like running and like PTing against other dudes, doing rucks, combatives competition, like of course I'm going to freaking compete. You know what I mean? Like I want to, at that point, like I want to win. Um,
I I would have won if I wasn't leaving for the Q course. Like I
yeah.
was good. It was like, but yeah, they give you money. I've like the when I won the one that you got like money, like actual money, like more than I was making being a private. It was it was more money for that just studying for a board, and I did lose the the only reason I lost the post one because I still competed, but I just phoned it in on the board. And the only reason I lost is because uh, on the Soldier of the Quarter, the one that I had won, I had just come back from selection the week prior, and we're out doing land nav, and they had this scale for land nav that if you finished for every block of minutes that you finished under the time cap before anybody else had finished, you got bonus points. So I maxed out the bonus points. It was just unbelievable amount of points. So we went into the board, and I heard already won by hundreds of points or something like that before the board even started. So we go into the Soldier of the Year board. They changed the rules because I did that, and so I it was pretty even at the finals. So I didn't get my bonus points, so I didn't win. Not that I care or anything like
Right,
that,
right.
but that's just how it was. That they had never. And I'm not tooting my own horn. That's just how it was. I came back from selection. They gave me a, a land nav course that was child's play compared to what I just did. So I ran the whole thing, got back, and I was like, yeah, give me my MRE, let me eat. And kind of fucked me in the end. But luckily, I got to go onto the Q course. I got to go where I
Yeah.
wanted to be. So it worked out. So otherwise, who knows what would have happened? You get sucked into that. But having said that, I went to selection, got selected, got pulled to rear D, kept doing those boards because I was winning. So I'm in a regular arm unit. If you're listening at home, you're like, boards or whatever. The commander and first sergeant let me do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. I could go to CrossFit at lunch and work out. I could go ruck during the day as long as my work was done in the training room and everything, because I was doing this shiny thing for my unit and basically just showing off. Uh, I could do whatever the fuck I wanted, and it worked out for going to selection, getting ready to go to the Q course, and all this. So I was a fucking stud when I got there. But those things, there are benefits to doing all that shit that you don't think
Oh,
are
yeah.
are relevant in your career. So it worked out for me. Just it was fun. And now it's over. So
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely worth it if guys get the opportunity there listening.
no, yeah, it was definitely not a negative. So, but we get over to brag, man. Now it's time to fulfill your dream of being a Green Beret. What are you thinking at this point?
Just coming from an aviation background, that first big hurdle was SUT. So I was just learning all the tactics, soaking in all the information, and I took a lot of that experience from that initial EOD failure. And that's when I like really cracked down on like how I learn best, like space repetition systems, how to create, study habits, how to create and retain information. And I just started studying my ass off. So throughout the course, did pretty well. I was a Charlie up until the Charlie course. So I was class 308. And went through everything, got through the entire Charlie course, the construction, all the demo side, got to the backside of the Charlie course, and then we had that training accident. I don't know if you heard about the HME explosion.
I
Um,
have. I've talked with some of the cadre, none of the students.
Gotcha. I was a student in it. So the guy who passed away, Alex Delita, was, we became friends throughout that entire course. He was actually from the 160th as well. He's from 3rd Battalion. Um, and that freaking rocked me, man. I was like going smooth up until that point. And then once that happened, I was like treating Alex and stuff like that, me and a couple other guys, and he ended up passing away in the FLA on the way to the hospital. It like messed me up. And I it's kind of like one of those things, like you get into the environment, you expect things like that to take place when you deploy. Like you never wanted to, but you accept that risk is there. But in a training environment, like didn't really cross my mind. Like obviously we were messing with explosives, that potential is always there, but it never like I never really thought about it or really thought it was a potential. So after that happened, ended up taking a compassionate recycle to go to the funeral, which was up in Arlington that following October, happened on September 14th. And then went back into class and had to redo all the demo portion of it. And it was, I was like still messed up from it. Like I had, and this is like, I'll touch on in a second, but I was so shaken by messing with demo at that point. Like it was the first time I had messed with demo since the explosion happened, since everything took place. And I jumped right back into it and started messing with even C4, and like my hands were shaking. I was like clamming up. I was just super freaking nervous. Um, so I ended up going through the course. I knew a lot of the information, studied my ass off, so didn't struggle with any of that stuff. But got to the FTX, and same thing. I was just like still could not shake the nervousness playing with demo after that happened, and ended up becoming a safety violation at FTX. So now I have to recycle again into class 310, and throughout that process, that's like I actually wrote about this. I haven't shared it with anybody, but after the explosion happened, probably like 30, 45 days, I just felt numb. Like I didn't feel anything. I couldn't cry. I just didn't, nothing was there. I would talk to psychs, like just didn't feel anything. And I was like getting worried almost. Like I feel like I should be sad, but I just don't feel anything. Like that was obviously like a traumatic event. My friend who I deeply care about, but I just don't feel it. And so I started talking with a good buddy who I believe he's still in group, and he recommended I just start like writing. So I just started writing my thoughts out. I wrote everything that happened. I started writing the things I think about or feel on a daily basis, and started to notice little improvements. Well, I go out to the funeral in Arlington, and that was like the first time I had I had talked to the widow, and we like helped arrange everything. We did all the bands and all that stuff. But that was like the first time I like faced her, and I like sat down, and we shook the hands as we were going through at the ceremony, and looked at all the four girls, and I just like dumped. Like that was the first time since it happened I just like broke down. Um, so then after that point was when I was like kind of getting back into the flow of things. And what really pulled me out of it was not necessarily talking to psychs. Like for me, it just didn't really do much, to be honest. What really pulled me out of it was writing. So writing my thoughts, writing my experiences, writing, journaling on a daily basis. And that's something that I still do to this day. And I think has really given me the tools to process that information on a deeper level, and explore it a little bit. Because I think for me, what was kind of happening is like I would think about something and kind of suppress it, or think about like a different scenario or suppress it, or go through the situation. And I never got past that like surface level of thinking through my emotions, thinking through the things I experienced. And for me, like for some reason, I can't just sit down and think through that stuff. My brain bounces around too much. But when I sit down and write, and I focus on one kind of thread of it, and I explore it a lot more deeply, I always walk away from it feeling a lot more clarity and feeling a lot better. So that experience led me to writing. Writing led me to kind of getting over my fear of explosives, and then with 310 ended up feeling good and didn't have the shakes or didn't have that anymore. Got through the course and then went out to Sage and was fine, and then finished everything up. So that was definitely the hiccup throughout my Q course experience, but ended up, you know, unfortunate experience. But I think from any unfortunate experience like that, we always learn something about ourselves, and it was a valuable thing that I pulled away from it and still implement today.
Yeah, we don't even consider because not no, unless anything goes bad, you don't have a frame of reference. But we were throwing around some pretty serious explosives,
Yeah.
and I mean, not throwing around, but just short of throwing around, and then making some pretty good size on Spendex Day. Made some pretty good size bombs, to the point where the cadre one, the first one went off, went, yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble for that one. Um, and but you're still pretty far away from it. And these things, like, they didn't even think about it, and then something happens, and I don't know if this is true or not. What I was told was it was at a point where nothing should have happened, and it was
Yeah.
kind of like
No.
a mystery that something did happen, like a spontaneous or an immaculate conception type mystery of happening. Like nobody knew what happened.
Yeah. It wasn't even, and I'm not going to get into the
No,
specifics, but it wasn't even a type of explosive that should have ever done that. So it was really a no, like nobody expected to happen. It happened at a table. You remember the tables out there? And I remember thinking it's like I was working on something myself and I had to get one of two things. One of the things was like right at the table and I could just like grab it and put it together. And the other thing I had to go walk over to the fenced in AHA area and grab it. And I was like, oh, I'll just do that. Seems more interesting. So I walk away to the AHA area and I was at the table next to it. And then when I got like 10 steps away, that's when it took place. So I mean, I remember looking at what they were working on and like nothing, it shouldn't, like, it is mystery.
yeah,
Nobody
um,
knows how it happened, really.
yeah. I'll leave that one part out. But yes, everybody involved says we don't fucking know. Um, Now, as far as doling out punishment, people still got punished. You can't explain. You're in charge. It happened. You're still in trouble. So that's unfortunate. That's the way things go in the army. So did the cadre, like the cadre had to have been spooked at that point even too, right? Going and being instructors, because if they can't explain it, and these are 18 Charlies, like instructors, they're doing the same shit week in, week out, all the time. Were they aware of what happened and like how people were feeling about things, or did were they just farther down the um, they're more tempered to the fact of to explosives and shit does happen at that point, or what were you feeling that they were going through?
Yeah, there was a cadre that was a pretty serious casualty, and because he was a casualty among the multiple students that ended up in the hospital, we talked to him a little bit more openly about it, and I think he felt it a lot more, obviously, with being more in it. But a lot of the other cadre still maintained their professionalism about it. Like we talked about it, but it wasn't like a heart to heart type of thing. So there was a kind of a divide between the students and the cadre, where they were doing the right thing. They were maintaining their professionalism. The class had to go on. We had that happen on a Thursday. We had the Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and on Monday we were back in class, sweeping for mines. So um, it kind of was like this surreal thing of nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew how to handle it, including the command. The only answer is to continue with class and have them continue to do their thing and go out and test and all that stuff. And where I was, like, Alex was my friend. There was another guy, Matt, who ended up having, unfortunately, pretty bad brain damage from the experience. He was like a freaking homie. So when I went to class the next week, I was just like not in it. Like, did not want to be there. Didn't have any interest in learning the information. Just nothing. So I pulled myself out of class and took a compassionate. Um, But yeah, for the cadre, it was just kind of like, we don't really know what to do. Let's just business as usual, continue moving forward.
Yeah. Whew, rough. I forgot about that until you said that. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, fuck. That sucks. We lost a guy in language towards the end. He got killed on his motorcycle riding into work.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and it's good. I mean, good thing it was at the end because we were all checked out at that point. Like, fuck, you know.
Yeah.
We're small classes, and the class it's not like you get lost in the sea of people out in the formation, and oh, that one guy he dropped out or he's gone now, he got recycled or something. No, no, we're in a classroom of four, and one guy died. Like, oh
Yeah. And
fuck,
even before that, like you're still going through SUT and SEER with all these
yeah,
guys. You're getting to know them, and yeah. So anytime something like that happens, it's rough, man.
no, it's too bad. Damn man, sucks. Well, yeah, the Charlie course is something we don't think about it, but we got through it and get to the other side. But so you get to get through all that. Robin Sage is Robin Sage. I never got any cool Robin Sage stories. I I I joke with people like with the hard class thing. It's like I got my go in each phase like right away, and then I didn't. I just carried heavy shit or kind of just sucked for the rest of each phase. So same thing with Robin Sage. I got my go right away, and then I never left the camp. So I never had any fun. I never did anything. Like I didn't. People tell these Robin Sage stories. I was like, man, that sounds like a blast. I made a shitter. You know, that's all I did. So if that's fun, did you get any fucking? Do you guys have a rough time at Sage or a fun time or anything?
No, to be honest, I'm pretty similar to yourself. Like infill sucked. Everyone's gonna say infill sucks. You know, carrying 130 pounds through the Uwari National Forest. So that was brutal. And then we ended up doing split team ops. So like for the first week or so, I was just in a house. And I was like, I almost felt bad about it because like all the homies were out in the freaking cold and sleeping in the woods. And for the first 5 days or so, I'm chilling in a house, like eating these um like little corn dog type things that I found in this deep freezer. So, so it was kind of funny, but no, we ended up, going back to camp and all that stuff and doing the sage thing and doing all the missions. So overall I was really impressed with the scale of Robin Sage and the amount of like not only logistics but civilian population that buys in on it. Really cool overall, training environment that I think at that point in my Q course experience, after everything, I was just kind of ready to be done. But if I could like go into the environment now, I'd probably have like get more training value out of it than at the end of the queue. And I just want to like survive and pass and get to my team. But overall, like looking back, it is a really cool experience.
Yeah, and from talking to people now being out and just learning how big Pineland is, like the
Yeah.
backside, there's way more going on than we saw. There's so much going on. And people up at 24-hour watch just to make this training happen and be realistic and the community and projects and all this other shit. It's like, so if any of those contracts pop up, I would love to go down and do it. I
Oh,
don't
same.
seem to be, yeah, but I haven't got to the right person yet. I have the time right now, but we'll see if one pops up. I might get there. But so, do you think you could pass selection right now?
Like strength wise, for sure. Strength and rucking. I got to get my run. I'm at like a 13:30 run time right now. I think if I took 8 weeks and built up mileage, for sure I could. I'd still run. It's basically, so we have a group program that we do. We do a lot of our custom programming, and that's where we like dial guys in. But we also have a group program where everyone is inside of a team chat and they get access to an ongoing program. And I do that program. So I'm essentially doing like a SFAS foundations program week over week. And that's pretty much how I train with a couple variations here and there. But so I still ruck, I still run every week and do all that stuff. So probably could go out and pass selection. I would probably feel better about having about 8 weeks to make sure my run times are where they need to be, though.
Yeah. I saw somebody ask that on some other clip, and I was like, yeah, I could pass it tomorrow. Like I could, I mean, I don't know about the selected part if they're looking for me now versus me then, but
Right, right.
yeah, absolutely. Fuck, let's go. Sign me up. I
Yeah.
even I put this status up, or not status, a post up a couple months ago. It's like I trained with the mentality that dive school's on Monday. Like I never got to go. I don't know if I could pass, but that's what I keep in mind for my cardio training. Like I'm big and strong, but I fucking pushing the cardio. I think and having fun with it. So and the
Yeah.
pool. So
I
yeah.
do
So
like the only reason I say it is I run I do a lot of zone 2, but I don't do a whole bunch of speed work these days. A lot of like the higher intensity conditioning I'm doing is, on the rower or assault bike, things like that, just cuz I don't need to go out and do it, but that would be the only sticking point. It was just like that first PT test, am I going to be under that 1330? Probably,
maybe
but I haven't
yeah,
tested it in
probably.
a while.
I don't know.
If I
Well,
really
that's the
like
other thing.
wanted it.
That's they let you go on the airfield out there, and there's a lot of adrenaline. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
you'd probably be fine. You'd be fine. You get being fine. I don't know. I thought it was curious. I was thinking to myself. I was like, yeah, sign me up. Let's go on Monday. You talked about those SFREs, and somebody tagged me in one of them for down south. And I was like, you guys get me a new social security number. I'll fucking be there. Let's do it. I'll fucking be there tomorrow.
That's
And
awesome.
the guy running the page is like, me too.
That's awesome.
Sad face. So, uh, you did you want to go to 10th group or did you want to go back to Campbell?
I wanted to go to 10th group.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
Why
the
is that?
mission set. Um, to be honest, there was something that always interested me about counter Russian aggression.
Okay.
uh, I think probably because my stepdad, he was a first group guy back in the day, but at that time during the Cold War, a lot of groups and individuals were focused on that anti-Soviet mission set. So he spoke Russian and he boarded a bunch of like Russian ships back in the day, called them porcupines and all this stuff. So I grew up hearing those stories about the Cold War, and I was always very interested about Russian history and particularly our relations with Russia throughout the years. So that kind of sparked my interest in it. I started learning the Russian language even when I was at in the 160th. I linked up with the fifth group guys out there, and at the time they had a Russian program, so I went to their language lab and started doing some introductory classes to Russian. So I really wanted to learn the Russian language. I really wanted to partake in that Eastern European mission set, and I wanted to go out to Colorado to hunt elk. So it was kind of the perfect thing, and for me, like language has always been a really big passion slash interest of mine. So getting that experience, I always like in the back of my mind, I always knew I could learn Spanish. I'm still learning Spanish to this day, but it's an easier language to learn. I was like, if I'm going to get the opportunity to go to language school, which is 6 months of being able to focus on a language with a native speaker in a small classroom setting, I want to utilize it for a really hard language that I would struggle to learn outside that classroom. So I really wanted to learn Russian.
That's cool, man. Seems like you're way more in depth committed to it than I was. I was just like I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but it sounds like you had a pretty good idea of where you were and where you wanted to be. So that's awesome to hear, man. Fuck. The more I talk to people, I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, some people are in the same boat as me. They're like, nah, man, I just, just wanted to go do it and get out of where I was. And some people are like, no, I came out of the womb and I'm like, I wanted to be a Green Beret. I was like,
Well,
God damn.
yeah. I mean, I wanted to be a Green Beret, but even like apart from the Green Beret thing, I
Yeah.
had always just been intrigued with languages. Like I really, it's just like a big interest of mine to this day. I still learn languages every single day. So going throughout high school, I learned a little bit of German. I learned a little bit of Spanish, but I freaking sucked at it. I just thought it was so cool when other people can speak a language. I was like, I want to be able to do that. So when like that was something that attracted me to the pipeline, but knowing that you get 6 months of language school and like that was like my salvation. I was like, I'm gonna learn how to learn a language. I'm gonna freaking do it finally in my life. Like I fucking suck at learning languages. I get to do it. And I just get to focus on that for 6 months. Like a lot of guys get to that point and they're like, God dang it, I gotta freaking sit in a classroom and learn a language. For me, I was like, fuck yeah, I get to learn a language. Like I'm gonna soak every aspect of this thing up. I would like stay after class and speak to my teacher and stuff like that. So it was just something I've always been interested in, and I looked at it as like a big opportunity to finally one learn a language, but number two like develop the skill sets to continue learning languages down the road, which is exactly what I did.
That's good. I mean, we know how much language falls off at group or can fall off at group.
Yeah.
Um, so I never spoke Thai ever to anyone that wasn't in the classroom setting. So super useful um, in my boat. Um,
Yeah.
I've only used it to order food now as a civilian once in a while. But
Nice.
so you get out to you get out to 10th group. Is group everything you thought it was going to be when you get there?
Yes and no. Um, I it was for like the deployment. I got out to 10th group and I signed in early and went straight to Afghanistan. So I was fortunate to kind of catch a deployment on the back end of kind of leaving the country because that's always something that I wanted to do. And in terms of combat operations and being in Afghanistan, pretty freaking close to exactly what I expected. I felt like I was a new guy when I deployed, so I felt like I was just learning information from a fire hose. Um, you know, kind of trying to prove myself that entire time, trying to just uh, hop on missions, um, and things like that. So in that aspect, yeah, for sure. When I got back to Garrison, it wasn't as how do I say this without making it sound bad? It wasn't bad. I loved it. It's a very unique experience, and as you know, you're never going to get an experience like that outside of the environment. Um, but it was different than I expected, primarily with like the emphasis on things that are outside the scope of the actual job. So like a Charlie, you're always doing, you know, layout.
Inventories.
Yeah, you're always doing um, change of command inventories. You're always doing admin work. You got to go formation. You got to go do all this stuff. And when I envisioned serving as a Green Beret, I envisioned like the environment, like, hey, everyone in the team room is going to be speaking another language and practicing their language skills and training. Like all you do is train and focus on your skill sets, and everything is kind of taken care of for you. Not that it's a bad thing that it's not. I do think it could be cleaned up a little bit and delegated out to the support elements a little bit more than it is, but it was just different than I expected, not necessarily bad.
7th group. That's the only one where everybody's like 3-3 speaker in 7th group.
Yeah, yeah.
You're living the life, the Spanish life. And you guys are speaking Portuguese, but they also speak Spanish as well. Uh, this whole time, like, what is it to you to be a Green Beret? Like, what does it mean to you?
To be honest, it um it somewhat lost its allure to me after the point I graduated the Q course. Not that it wasn't special or it wasn't, you know, uh like I didn't earn it or I didn't put in all this work. It just became I became much more focused on the career and the things you're doing and much less about like the title of the Green Beret. So I never really thought of like what it means to be a Green Beret. To me, what it means to be a Green Beret is you're you show up and you support your teammates and you show up to work and do exactly what's needed of you. And that need or those requirements of the team of the individuals on the team changes depending on the mission throughout the year. So as I was going through, it was just kind of like, okay, we're focusing on this now. Okay, we're focusing on this now. Develop these skill sets. We're going out here, make sure everything's squared away with this. So, in terms of like a pretty statement that says like what it means to be a Green Beret, I would say someone that is adaptable and is capable across multiple domains. So kind of like that jack of all trades, master of none, but can get to a high level proficiency in something when they have the time to focus on it. So that's what I focused on and kind of was like my thought process going into that environment. And then throughout those first couple years, kind of just adapted to the focuses of the team.
Yeah, I think you kind of get into it there, but did you get to be that person that you thought a Green Beret was?
Um, yes and no. Professionally, yes. Like got to jump out of planes, got to shoot, got to do all this stuff. But one thing this is why I mentor guys in all the time on the backside is like I um didn't like just focus on the career. It was slower than I expected. Like you have more time between training events. You have, like sometimes you'd be back to back to back, but sometimes you'd be in garrison for weeks at a time. So I started looking for other things that I could develop outside of work even, and started getting into real estate investing and started doing all this stuff. So like my kind of experience professionally, like, yeah, felt like a Green Beret when I deployed with my team, like working with the guys, going out on operations. Like that's the shit that I envisioned Green Berets doing. Back in garrison, it didn't always feel like that. Sometimes it just felt like a normal job. But we show up to work and we go shoot for a little bit. Then I come home and I work on my rental property. So it's kind of like a surreal experience that I think guys, including myself, put on a pedestal. Like when I was going into the environment, I kind of put it on a pedestal. Like everything in my life is going to revolve around that. And when I got there, it was like, this is my profession, and my profession revolves around being a capable and high performing Green Beret and individual and part of the team. But I still have another entire life outside of work that I had to learn how to develop. And made some mistakes and took me years to like kind of get those pieces in place and get to a point where I was like more rounded out and to the point where I am the man I wanted to be as a Green Beret.
Do you think that is also, well, I know it is, but you're at 10th group proper, like first 110 and 1-1. They're forward. Like I know the guys at 1-1, you don't have a life. You don't. If you're married, you're getting divorced.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And so there is that too. Did you get to see any of that, or was because you didn't stay at group, what, 5 years? You said
Yeah. Just under 5.
so.
Yeah.
So you stayed at Carson the whole time, if not in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I went to Eastern Europe and then just like
Okay.
training missions along there. But I actually did get divorced. So that's what I mean. Like when you ask, like, was I the man who I envisioned as a Green Beret during that time? Professionally, yes, but I was young. I went to selection at 22. I got to a team when I was 24, and I could perform in a professional environment. But now, to me, what it means to be a Green Beret or what it means to be the guy that we envision as that performer or in a Green Beret is not only someone who has the skill sets and all the professional acumen, but someone who also takes care of their life on the personal side of things. And for me, going through that and learning how to balance it took some developing. And I think that is something that um, obviously a lot of guys in groups struggle with. There wouldn't be that high of a divorce rate if it was like something that came so natural. And I think it's hard too because you go for months at a time where you're not home and you don't have a personal life. And then you'll be back in garrison where you have a bunch of time off, and now you have to figure out what your personal life looks like. So for me, it took a little bit to get that under control. Not under control, but like figure out who I was outside of work, outside of the professional environment, and become the person that I want to be.
What pushed you to get out?
The end of Afghanistan was definitely a starting point to that. It was also the COVID era, so I don't know where you stand on it, but I was in the box of like I don't want to get the vaccine and all this stuff, and I did get the vaccine. I ended up getting it. They basically told me I have 24 hours to get, or I'm getting kicked out. So a lot of these things just like started putting bad taste in my mouth. The lack of like a real authentic mission with Afghanistan ending. This is before Ukraine kicked off, so it was kind of this like, okay, what are we going to be doing type of thing. I also had 10 years in the army, and if I wanted to stay in, I would have to go in def. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to sign a 10-year contract. So I kind of got to the point where it was like, I loved my time in group. I loved the opportunities I got. I'm proud of the work I did. I'm proud of the missions I was able and fortunate enough to take part in. Love the guys on my team, but got to a point where I wanted to leave the professional or the organization, both the SF and the Army as a whole, and do something that one enables me to have a little bit more roots, enables me to figure out who I am outside of the uniform, figure out what my life looks like, and two, develop something and build something of my own, which is what Infinite Grid is. So, a kind of a conglomeration of reasons why I got out, but both professional and personal of like wanting to explore who I am and do things outside of just being in the army. Because I went, I was a teenager that listened to all my stepdad's stories and living under the roof of my parents. And then I joined the military at 18, a month after I graduated high school, and spent 10 years in the military. So up until that point, like all I knew was the army. And I always felt like kind of controlled to a certain extent. And I wanted to get into an environment where I have the control over my life and I can build it the way I want to.
Did you make the right choice?
I don't know. Yes, in the sense of like I have a beautiful wife and a kid that was just born 11 days ago. That likely would have not been the case had I still been in. Um, but definitely miss aspects of the job for sure. Like there's, if you could tell me that I could still live in Arizona and go to work here and be with my family and things like that. I know the National Guard side, but it would be hard to say no. So I think at the time it was the right thing for me because I needed that space to develop myself outside of work. Like it doesn't matter how good of a Green Beret you are if you don't know who you are outside of work. So I needed to kind of go through the transition process out of the military to find that. And I'm glad I did because I've learned a shit ton over the last 2 years. And I'm happy with who I am and I'm happy with where I'm at. But I'd be lying for sure if I said I didn't miss the job and the team aspect and deploying and doing the thing.
Yeah. Well, I can get you a slot, and let's see where I'm going to be a cadre at an SFRE here in a couple weeks. Open, yeah, I'm very excited about it. I was like, can I bring my stuff? So it's very strange. The National Guard, very strange organization. It's Colorado National Guard coming out here to Wisconsin to now this isn't them saying it. This is me. I'm just like, so you guys are poaching? Like, what are you doing out here? Why are you here? Well, he's like, well, I live here, and I'm in Colorado National Guard, so we're we're establishing the program. I was like, that sounds a lot like poaching, but okay. So I'm going up to Fort McCoy, and this will come out after that happens. So, but I'm going to go up there and bring all my stuff, bring my microphone and stuff and try and make a little, like a little video, some stuff with the guys and, you
Yeah.
know, pretend again. Uh, I isolated myself when I got out, and I hope you didn't do this, but it seems like you didn't because you got right back into the field. But I came out here to Wisconsin, and I didn't have anybody in my phone. I didn't have any of my friends. I didn't have contact with anyone, and there's nobody here. I joke that I'm the most famous Green Beret in Wisconsin uh, because there's no one here. Like, I've only got 5 friends, and one of them's at 110 right now. Um, and it just happened he's right from down the street. So I'm not even the most famous Green Beret from Wisconsin anymore. I'm just like number 4 or something out of 5. So, yeah, I isolated myself, and yeah, the community's there if you don't do that. If I can just, even make friends or make this, I've made my own little community, and I'm much better with all of it now, especially stopping drinking, and then just being nice and making nice content and being nice to people and supportive and telling them how can I help you do what you want to do. And so I'm excited to go to that and, get to tell people, this is what I think of things, or here's how I feel about it, and just get to be around a company of SF guys again. Cause like, he's a Zulu, but he's 2 years younger than me. So
Nice.
it's like, wow, like would I be an eight now? Like, really?
Probably.
Like, you know, and could I do that? Yeah, I could do it. And then I even got to the point where I was like, hey, what's your recruiter's number? I talked to him. I was like, hey, I'm medically retired. What's the odds of me getting back in? They're like, we can try, but here's what happens if they still say no after you get everything waived. I was like, okay, we're not going to try,
Yeah.
but maybe. He's like, oh, the National Guard's always open, man. I was like, yeah, fuck. Yeah, so no, that's great, man. You got so why'd you name it Infinite Grit?
To be completely honest, my wife came up with the name, and I said that sounds really good. I was racking my mind to come up with a name for like 2 weeks. And we were driving to the gym one day, and she's like, "What about Infinite Grit?" I was like, "I like that." So we kind of rolled with it. And really, like, it has been a big thing that has helped me, one, develop, but also establish that community. Because I, much like yourself, I moved to a different location. I moved from Colorado to Arizona, where I'm fortunate to have some family here, but and my wife's family. But like, as far as friends go and like the competitive team environment, like, pretty non-existent down here. So I kind of had two goals with Infinite Grit. One was to use my passion for fitness and the things I've learned over the years and the things I continue to learn to help guys ideally train and avoid the mistakes I made early on. And two is like build a team of coaches and guys who are passionate about it, but we have that team aspect kind of like the SF guys. So um, when I got out, we had like two guys. They're doing some contract stuff now because they don't want to give it up. But we were working with two other guys who were on my team when they got out, and then we have Matt Powell, and then we have another guy who's assistant coach here. So I'm slowly kind of building the team of Infinite Grit. But my plan with it is not just have it all about me, but have it a team of highly qualified and a team of experienced former special operations guys who want to share their knowledge and expertise with the guys coming up, and it serves that purpose of us doing something that we genuinely believe in, but also us being and having that team aspect where we can push each other and we can build that and we can kind of steer it the way we want to. So it has been kind of a really good tool to carry me through this process. And for me, like I kind of talked about with the whole HME thing, the 18 Charlie course, where I started writing, well, that carried throughout my career. I continued writing and I never did it from a creative standpoint. I just wrote my thoughts because I knew I felt better when I write things down. When I got out, I started just sharing random stuff online. I would write something like a lot of, my early stuff is more like mindset stuff. Like, this is something that I learned through this experience or something like that. And this project, or when I started this, I realized having a creative outlet is also something that fortifies my mental health and helps me focus on something and always work towards something. And it's just a really good experience to have that creative outlet. So, as much as we have helped guys along the way, they have helped me by supporting and affording me the opportunity to do what we do today.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like January 1st, there was 0 episodes. There's just I'm lesser known operators. I'm the lesser known operator. There's you're 57 now, I think. You're the
Nice.
57th episode I've recorded. 34 released. Like I got 20 fucking 3 episodes
Holy
in
shit.
reserve.
That's
We're taking
awesome.
a break in June, which obviously this won't come out until end of June or beginning of July. But um, Yeah, I got my own team of people, the lesser known operators, right? And some of them are well known, some of them are not. Like the guy tomorrow, he's got a pretty big following. And then things like that. But everybody's lesser known to someone. So I've made my own little group. If I got a question, I can reach out to somebody. If I make a reel, I can share it and collaborate, and people collaborate with me. It's fun. It's um, it's different. We get out and we have to make our own community because we're not you're not legally obligated to go hang out with your friends anymore. You're not, it's not punishable by fucking time in the brig if you don't show up to work. All you got to do is get there, and everybody's forced to hang out with you. That's not the case anymore. You got to work at it, and it's interesting. We'll see where it goes. I'm very excited to see where you guys take it. Everybody. I'm just like you guys don't know me. I'm just a fucking hanging out in my basement making videos, but I'm just so proud of everybody that's building all this stuff and being a good example and doing these things and just being happy for themselves. And hopefully it's rubbing off on other people. I know it's rubbing off on me, and people say the stuff that I'm putting out is rubbing off on them. So that's great. I fucking love it to see it. I'd love to see where it's gonna go, man.
Yeah.
Interesting thing we've all got ourselves into. So I got 5 questions for you here, and then I'll cut you loose. How's that sound?
Let's do it.
Fuck yeah, man. What's your response to thank you for your service?
Thank you for your support.
You got that one worked out pretty easily.
Yeah, thank you for your support. I mean, to me, like, um, people hate on like the thank you for your service thing sometimes, but that to me, like, it shows that someone cares enough to at least go out of their way or think about those types of things. So genuinely, like, thank you for your support. Thank you for thinking about um, the importance that not only the military plays, but all the individuals that signed up years of their life to go serve in it. You know, whether you did it for your own personal reasons, for the sense of adventure, for the challenge, or you did it because you wanted to serve at the highest level. Like, it doesn't really matter; they still did it. And I think people saying that is cool. Like, I'm never gonna hate on somebody for thank you for your service. I know it gets made fun of a little bit, but to me, like, legitimately, I'm happy that civilians and people care about their military.
Fuck yeah. What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
I'm split between two, but I will say the drive to always seek a solution. Nobody is good at everything, including operators the first time they do something. But the thing that separates guys who are successful in that environment from guys who don't make it into the environment is the willingness to put themselves out there when things are uncomfortable and fail through um, the attempts that they make towards something and ultimately develop a capability within that. So I always say, like, yeah, the special thing about guys in special forces is not that they're these genetically gifted freaks of nature aside from yourself, obviously. I'm just kidding. It's not that they are these genetically gifted freaks of nature, but they are people who have a high level of motivation and personal discipline to just put themselves out there before anybody tells them they need to, and always work towards a solution instead of waiting for things to take place and never doing anything in the first place. Like, that's like a good example of that is if you start working around a bunch of SF guys, what do? They work. Like, I've never in my life seen an SF guy sit on the couch and watch one of his teammates work. Like, they're go getters, they're self motivated, and they always work towards a potential end state.
What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo, and it wouldn't change where you are now?
Relive or redo. Man. Hmm. I would say um, I think it would be really cool to go back on an operation in Afghanistan, and not for the sense of like, hey, I want to go chase combat and I want to go to war and all this stuff. But that was the time in my career where I really felt like a Green Beret and I really felt part of a team and that everything is clicking and that this is where I belong. And it kind of sucks in a way because I was a new guy in Afghanistan and I wasn't as proficient as you're going to be with years on a team. Obviously, it's a job that takes years to learn, but I wish I could take my proficiency and everything I know now back into that environment and feel it with that level of confidence.
What is the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
Simple, but from my stepdad earlier on in my career when I failed is you have full control over your mindset at every step of the road. You get exactly what you put into the military. So if you take a negative mindset into an environment or pull on those strings of negativity, that's exactly what you're going to remember that environment for or those experiences for. But if you take a positive mindset and seek what you can get out of this situation and learn from it and where you can fit in, you can, looking back, you can learn a lot. And I didn't always get that perfect, but I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I got in the military, and I'm thankful for.
This one, man. Well, there is a bonus question because you're in fitness, but last one of the five. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Then I was afraid of failing. Um, there, like even after that EOD failure, it motivated me all day long. But what motivated me was that fear of failure. And I just didn't want to relive that so badly. And it was such a fear of mine that a lot of the decisions I made weren't decisions necessarily to become more proficient or be better. There are decisions to not fail. And I think there's a difference of mindset and a difference in the confidence and the level of operator it produces. For the people who, I looked around in my classes who were the best or the best operators on the team. CJ, one of my good friends, he's out now, but one of the best operators I ever served with. Dude is controlling multiple aircraft on the ground, clearing buildings with me, like all kinds of stuff. And he never played to lose. He never played or improved or made a decision out of the fear of failure. He always did it with the understanding that that's what needs to be done. That's what needs to happen to progress forward. So then that was my biggest fear, was that failure aspect. My biggest fear now is not living up to the potential that I have. Um, and for me, like that means like now I have a daughter that was just born, a couple weeks ago. Everything I do is going to be seen. It's going to be processed and it's going to become part of another person. So if I'm not putting myself out there, staying true to my word, doing the things I know I'm capable of, and staying consistent with this stuff, staying consistent with Infinite Grit, like I'm going to look back in 15 years and be disappointed with the outcome that I didn't get for the work I didn't do. So for me, it's staying consistent and fulfilling the potential and kind of this vision I have for everything that I want to happen over the next couple of years.
Absolutely, man. Gonna have to keep at it. I'm excited to see excited to see where everybody goes and what the guys coming out get into and come up with for their shit that they're getting out. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see. Bonus question: since you're in fitness, what are the last seven exercise? If you can only do seven exercises for the rest of your life, what are they?
Bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press. Um, I would do some type of carry, probably a suitcase carry.
Suitcase.
Yeah, suitcase carry instead of a farmer's, just because you get that
Yeah,
oblique.
you get to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, get that core work in there. Um, glute ham raise because I got these little baby glutes. No, I'm just kidding. Uh,
that's 6.
6.
Yeah,
Then one more exercise. I'd probably I'd probably just keep a pull up, get a vertical pull and movement in there.
love it. Fuck yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. Uh, I really hope the best for you guys. And if there's anything that I can do for you that you need, let me know. You got anything for me, man?
Hey man, no, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on the show, meet you first and foremost. You know, I'm sure we're gonna stay in touch for years to come. And you know, it's really cool to see you stick with it. You know, I've seen many guys jump on and post a couple times and then they kind of fizzle out, and I get excited for them because they're posting, they're putting themselves out there, and I know how challenging that is. But the fact that you're sticking to it, the fact that you're putting in all this work and really making a name for yourself is inspiring. So keep doing what you're doing, man. And if there's ever anything I can do to help you, please let me know. But wish you the best, brother.
Appreciate that, man. Bye, everybody.